City of Northglenn, Channel 8, keeping you informed of events in your community.
I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of February 24th, 2020. Joanna, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Lighty.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wolford is absent. Councilmember Whitkovich.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Councilmember Downey.
Here.
Councilmember Brown will be absent. Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Duran-Mullica.
Here.
Councilmember Escobar.
Here.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to citizen inquiry?
Nothing this evening, Mayor.
Okay. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okie dokie. So we are fortunate to have some members of the League of Women Voters with us to celebrate the 100th anniversary. So if council would join me down front, we will read that proclamation.
Oh.
Okay, we have some special guests. Come on up. So I have Shirley Morochek. Is that correct? Come on up. Yes, please. Beth Vieira, Kathy Melvin, Pat Lewis, Judy Nicolaisen, and Shirley Smith. Maybe stand this way so the camera can see you. Excellent. Thank you for coming. So here's our proclamation. Whereas the League of Women Voters was founded in 1920 as a mighty political experiment by suffragist Carrie Chapman Chatt at the National American Women's Suffrage Association. And whereas their goal was to help the 20 million women who were guaranteed the right to vote by the 19th Amendment understand and carry out their new responsibility as voters. And whereas with the success of this effort and tireless efforts over the last 100 years to strengthen and uphold its mission to empower voters and defend democracy, the League has become a trusted, nonpartisan organization. And whereas the League has sponsored legislation to protect and strengthen voting rights, free and fair elections, health, civil rights, the environment, social welfare, campaign finance, climate change, and civil liberties. And whereas the League has consistently been noted for its nonpartisan election information, including sponsorship of candidate forums and information on state and local ballot issues, as well as the League's commitment to register, educate, and mobilize voters. And whereas the League believes that active and engaged citizens, irrespective of gender, ethnicity, or political affiliation, are the hallmark of democracy and champions government systems that are open, transparent, inclusive, and equitable. Now, therefore, I, Meredith Leidy, Mayor of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby congratulate the League of Women Voters on their 100th anniversary and commend the League for its significant contributions to empowering voters and making democracy work. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 24th day of February 2020. So is there anyone, yes. Is there anyone here that wants to say a few words? You all can take a turn.
Well, on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Adams County, I want to thank you. This was wonderful. I really appreciate your time in doing this for us. And we are here to serve you and get you registered to vote. And everybody, please vote. Thank you.
And check out our website.
Yeah, check on our website.
WV Adams County, if you have any questions or concerns. And if we don't know the answer, we will get it.
Good.
And by the way, all of you can join us where we
Yes.
meet Monday,
The second
second Monday at 6:30 in the center there on Highlight Drive.
Community Reach Center.
County Mental Health, and then the fourth Monday, we meet at 11:30 for people that don't get around in the evening. Come join us. We let guys in too.
We do have a couple people, yes.
Thank you so much.
All right, we usually do handshaking, but I'm gonna do a picture real quick. So
And then
I need everybody to step like 2 steps that way so I don't get this in. Good. You're good. Taking a picture, you're good. All right. Joyce, you're gonna have to go up a step.
I can go right here.
All right, there we go. All right, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Again. Last one. Nice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you.
Okay, we have 2 presentations this evening. The first one is the Youth Commission Annual Report. Come on up, introduce yourselves, and can't wait to hear all about it.
Good evening. My name is Jacob Tao. I'm the president of the Northglenn Youth Commission.
My name is Abhiyan Briley and I'm the board member. Also, I have the copies of the annual report and may I pass that to you guys.
Yes, thank you.
So while Abhiyan is passing out the copies of the report, just by way of some background, the Northglenn Youth Commission is composed of youth from around the city of Northglenn. Anyone from the ages of 13 to 18 who lives in Northglenn or attends school in Adams 12 is eligible to join. And we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of every month at 7 p.m. We've had a lot of membership changes over the last year. We've had a lot of new members and a lot of members leave us. So we've had 12 members all told at some point throughout the last year. We had to say goodbye to 2 of our members. Everett Renberg graduated last year, and Lily Kunis is taking a year off for a study abroad program, but we're hoping to welcome her back next year. And we've also welcomed 7 new members as part of our recruitment efforts this year, so we're very excited about that.
So, in the end of the year of 2019, we planned as a youth commissioners event for our youth commissioners, where we went to the puzzle effect to do escape room. Then at there we had a great time and we're able to make really great relationship with each other, then get to know each other. Cause I'm a new member. I just joined in 2020, so I didn't know that much thing about youth commission. It was a great team building, and also everyone was collaborative while we were there, and we had a great time. And also, like, without any members of the youth commissioners, we would not have been able to do what we did. We were not able to do the escape from the room. And also after that, we went to Jim and Nick's to have a nice dinner with our youth commissioners. And also we got to know each other while and closely through the elephant game, which was exchanging a gift like a secret Santa, but like in different ways. Like where we had to unwrap all the gifts, and like so we saw like what all of us brought for each other, which was a great time and really fun. And it was a great team building and had lots of fun there, and we'll do that in future too.
So one of the things that we as a youth commission try to do is we try to be really involved and engaged with our community, and there are two major ways that we've done that in the past year. So the first is we worked with the Adams County Youth Initiative, which has since been renamed the Rocky Mountain Cradle to Career Partnership. And so we worked with them as part of on the City of Northglenn's study surrounding tobacco use among youth in the community, which over the course of the study, due to the research and the information that was collected, sort of brought in to become a more general study on vaping among youth in the community. So we worked with this organization throughout the entire process from the very beginning. We helped them design their screening questions and their advertising materials to help them appeal to youth to make sure that they were able to get the quotas that they wanted to ensure accurate research, and all the way to the end of the project, where we just recently had a meeting with them to review the results of the study. And we're hoping to see those results soon turn into action proposals to bring to the City Council to see this research actually put into action to create solutions to this issue. And secondly, we also have been working over the last year with the Denver Regional Council of Governments MetroVision Regional Transportation Plan Youth Advisory Panel, which is a mouthful. So that's a collaboration of us and 17 other youth commissions from around the Denver metro area, and we're working with them to help shape the transportation plan that will affect this whole area for the next decade or so. So we've had one meeting of that so far, and the next meeting is coming up this week, so we're hoping that that can be a really productive collaboration with our peer commissions.
In addition, we also did another event where we planted flowers at the Veterans Memorial flower bed in honors of the veterans, where we planted blue, white, and red colors flowers, which represents the U.S. flag. And also, I wasn't participating in the event because I wasn't in the youth commission. So in future, I will be looking forward to participate in this event. And also another event we did was the National Night Out, which was we do this every year, and which is like each member, few members of the youth commissioners ride along with the police officers to meet our community and the residents of our city, and build a great relationship with our people who live in Northglenn, with the Department of Police and the city of Northglenn. And we also plan to do this every year. And the other event we did this year was the Derby Day, which we started in the second year of our youth commission, where we sold burritos and water and other stuff to raise money to donate for the Relay of Life, which is cancer research. And we were able to raise up to $400 last year in 2019. In future, I'll be looking forward to participate in this fundraiser too, because I wasn't able to participate in the last one.
So in some other events that we participated in over the past year, we had the opportunity to attend the 50 Years of Photos open house, at which several of our commissioners got to meet the artist who was selected for the Tunnel Mural project, and we talked with him to share some of our favorite memories of Northglenn to help inspire ideas that would shape the design of that project. And then in October, we attended my favorite event, which is Safe Street Halloween. We hosted a cookie decorating station at the very end of the trick-or-treating route, and we had 1,200 cookies that we decorated or that we frosted for kids, and then the kids got to decorate them with sprinkles. And it was really great to see how excited all the kids were to be there. And it's been my favorite event to participate in, and I hope the commission continues to participate in future years. And then in December, we had several commissioners attend the Noel Northglenn event, and at the end of that event, several of them stayed to volunteer to help clean up. And then, if I could skip back a page here, one of our major projects that we have also worked on in the last year. So I guess every year, the Youth Commission picks 1 or 2 projects that we really want to focus on to try to make a difference in the community. And at our last annual report for our 2018 report, we talked about our Little Libraries project, which was underway at the time. And in 2019, we finished up that project, so we now have, we completed it over winter and spring of last year. So the project began as an effort to improve literacy in the community, and so we decided that we wanted to partner with 3 local elementary schools to bring them little libraries, which is, for those who don't know, it's a sort of an outdoor box. You may have seen them around in various neighborhoods around the city, and it operates on a take a book, leave a book principle. So anyone who wants can take a book, and they either put it back when they're done, or they replace it with another book if they want to keep the one that they took. So it's sort of an honor system, but it makes it a free source of reading material for both students at the schools and for the wider community. So we partnered with 3 schools, Northmore, Malley Drive, and Hillcrest Elementary, and we worked with their staff and with principals to secure approval for installation of the little libraries. And we also worked with, we got donations from Lowe's, Home Depot, King Soopers, and Walmart for purchasing supplies and purchasing books to fill the little libraries. And then in May, we installed the little libraries and held dedication ceremonies at all of the schools, at which each youth commissioner got to present one of their favorite books from their childhood or from a current reading, and put one of those books into the library, and then we called up students to help fill the library themselves. And it was a really long project that took a lot of effort and a lot of dedication, and it was really exciting to see how well it paid off and how happy all of the students were to be able to use this new resource. So yeah, it's been a very productive year for the Youth Commission, and we're excited to see where the next year takes us and what projects we'll work on this year. So thank you, and then if there are any questions.
Sure, we all have comments. Jacob, and is it Abayan or?
Abiyan.
Abiyan, I'm sorry, Abiyan. Everybody up here cares deeply about youth and education in our community. And many of us come from an education background, and I'm personally a high school teacher. And I'm inspired by the work you're doing. And I hope that you know that what you're doing is laudable and worthy of being so very proud of. We live in a world that sometimes we focus on the negative, and there's certainly a lot of that. And when you see people like yourselves working to make a difference, a legitimate difference, because of your hard work and your engagement in the community, it's amazing. And I hope you're deeply proud of the work you're doing, because I'm incredibly impressed with your outreach and your hard work. My quick question for you is twofold. First of all, where do you guys go to school, and what year are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I go to Northglenn High School,
Uh-huh.
and I'm a sophomore there.
Sophomore, okay.
I'm a senior at Stargate High School.
At Stargate, okay. I graduated from Northglenn High School. And my other question to you is I love that this is open to all students, not just Northglenn residents, but all students in Adams County that serves Northglenn as well as 4 other communities. Do you work to communicate, or how do you communicate, or has that been communicated to the district? And if you don't know, that's okay, I'm not putting you on the spot. But does the district know, and can they advertise the good work that you're doing to make sure that you have the membership that you need?
We don't really have that connection with the district, but we are working with certain organization of the district that is led by the district. They promote in the schools too. It's most through schools. We know through schools because there are other youth commissioners from different cities which are promoted in our school too.
Sure.
So where they promote North. So if you want to participate in this program, it's through school basically.
Yeah, we also, we had our large recruitment drive last year that brought in 7 new members, so that was exciting.
How many
But
do you
that
have
was-
total?
Total right now, we have, I believe, 10.
Fantastic.
But then we've also been working with, looking at ways to collaborate more with other youth commissions. So we've been looking at like the Thornton Youth Commission, for example. We've
bet.
been in contact with them. So we're hoping that over the next year we can build more permanent relationships with our similar commissions in other cities so that we can start working on more regional scale projects.
You do great work. You should be very proud.
Thank you.
I
Go ahead.
agree. No, go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing.
I know.
Commissioner, or Councilman, I was going to call you Commissioner. Oh, my goodness. That would be great. I don't know. Anyway, Councilman Peterson said it very eloquently. You know, you guys do great work. We're really proud of you. And thank you for all the things you've done. I mean, you
Yeah.
have a full plate. I mean, you're doing great work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, the same. Sorry.
That's fine.
I'll go last. How about that? Go
Okay.
ahead.
I just wanted to briefly say, it sounds like you guys have been really busy, which is awesome. You've been doing some great stuff. One of the things that I value the most about you guys is just your ability to give your perspective to influence policy. I really feel like as youth in our community, you guys have so much to offer, and I love that we have you guys to kind of lean on and guide us. And thank you so much for serving in this role, and you guys are doing great. Thanks.
Thank you.
I really want to turn. I'm so excited. No, both of you did an excellent job with the report tonight. It's a packed house, and it's a big deal, and you did a very nice job. I miss attending your meetings because I really like the energy and the focus. You're all brilliant, and we are fortunate to have you. So thank you so much. And yeah, you've done a ton. There's so much work, and I just can't wait to see what you're doing in the next year. Yes.
When are your meetings?
They're the first and third Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. in the Recreation Center.
At the rec center?
Yeah.
First and third?
Yes.
Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's open to anyone from 13 to 18 in Adams 12 school or Northglenn resident. And we definitely have open spots right now, so we'd be really excited to have any new members who are looking to join.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, the next presentation will be from Debbie Tuttle, the Economic Development Report to Council.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. It's great to be here. I'm going to give you a snapshot of last year. There's 38 pages. There's no way you'd want to listen to 38 pages, so feel free to go to the report and look at that. But in front of you is an annual report that is hot off the press. It's an hour and a half old, so that'll kind of give you a glimpse as well. But we will go over both quarter 4 as well as year at a glance. So as you know, we all worked very hard, especially all of you, and putting our strategic plan together. And as you can see where the arrow is, business retention and growth is what we focus on in economic development. Cultivate and grow the quality and diversity of businesses to sustain the local economy and workforce. And that's always very exciting. And every day that's what we focus on. So with that, we're going to kind of move on. Some projects coming. So those aren't things that are in the reports necessarily because they're just coming up. So the one that is really exciting on the far left is Office Evolution. They're leasing 11,300 square feet on the 5th floor, so they're taking almost the entire 5th floor of the Metro North building, which is at 120th and Grant. And it'll be co-working space. They'll have 45 small offices, conference rooms. This is incredible for our small businesses. I know I've mentioned it before, but I want to say that we've been working on this for a very long time because this really fits our small business community. They'll have, for our home-based businesses, for instance, they'll have virtual office space there, shared, they can go in and use the conference room. They'll have an address there. A lot of times home-based businesses can't have their address, they don't want it published, but they'll be able to have a mailbox there, answering services there, and it'll be great. They're going to be opening up in the spring, and there's a lot of interest already happening. So they're going through the tenant finish right now. 112th Avenue and Huron Street. So you see the 7-Eleven up there. I should also add to that BBVA, which is the Compass Bank. So think about BBVA, Compass Bank, right on the corner of 112th and Huron by Global Village. So there's approximately 4 acres of land there. So you've got the bank, and then you've also got that about 2.5 acres of vacant lot that's been there forever. So the vacant lot is actually has been purchased by a developer. It'll be a 7-Eleven with 6 gas stations with it, as well as Patriotic Gas Wash, or Car Wash, excuse me, and then there'll be another vacant lot as well. So there's some opportunities on both of those to actually develop some additional sites there. So they're in right now with their building plans. They're in review, so we'll be seeing that breaking ground very soon, so that corner will really change. The Compass Bank, or the BBVA Bank, is downsizing, so they're moving to the other corner, and that's going to open up the rest of the lot for another user that will be doing that. Also on here that is 7-Eleven, a second 7-Eleven, that'll be going on Irma and 112th. So Charlie's Auto, that's over there at 112th and Irma. There's also a 7-Eleven that will be going in there as well. Carl's Farm, well, we've got the whole Carl's Farm team here today, so I'm not going to go into a lot of that, but we're really, really excited about that project. We've got 3 residential developers that are offering incredible opportunities for a variety of new housing opportunities here, as well as over 8 acres of commercial property that will be on the front. So we're very excited about that property, breaking ground hopefully this year, and tell me if I'm wrong on that. Okay. Also, Marketplace. As you all know, Bed Bath & Beyond moved in November of 2019. That was to make room for the new Harkins Theater. So now that Bed Bath & Beyond is moved, they will start doing, they're working on their site plans for the Harkins Theater, as well as the remaining portion of that northern side. So we should be seeing plans coming in here soon. The Bed Bath & Beyond, HCP, who's the owner of that property, they invested over $2.5 million in the relocation and the Bed Bath & Beyond, and that's their new prototype. So that's the first in the nation that was built like that, and that's the prototype that will be used all over the nation. So it's really great to have it here, as well as the Office Depot was the same, so over in Marketplace. One of the things I will mention as a major game changer is HCP, Hutensky Capital Partners, that owns the majority of the Marketplace. They actually purchased what we call the Arrow Rock property, which is the Tuesday Mornings, the K&G, and the Woodley's building. That was owned by another owner, and as we've discussed before, that has caused problems in redevelopment there. All 3 owners, Lowe's, HCP, and Arrow Rock, all had to sign off on every single thing that happened over there. Unfortunately, we had one holdout, which was Arrow Rock. So HCP understood the importance of purchasing that building, and they have that now, and that will now expedite redevelopment of that site. Until then, our hands have been tied on that property because of that reason. So we are hoping to see plans coming in on the new theater soon. Really great, over in the far left, you'll see a Delta at Marriott. That is what our Ramada Plaza will be looking like, either at the very end of this year or early next year. They're going to be putting in $18 million, and it'll be a complete renovation of the Ramada Plaza. They'll be adding a Tony Roma's and the 4 Starbucks in Northglenn. I always said when I started here, we didn't have a Starbucks. So we weren't on the map if we didn't have a Starbucks. So now this will be our 4th Starbucks. So we're on the map. So there's 3 phases of the redevelopment. They're in the process right now of phase 1, which is demoing all of the rooms. They are demoing them as we're speaking. The second phase is the exterior piece, which is all the landscaping, all the facades and parking lot and lighting and all of that that you're seeing here. And then the third phase is the interior. So that will be the ballroom, the conference rooms, the atrium areas, the check-in areas, and so on and so forth. So we're really, really pleased about that. That's a major asset. It's going to change the overall look of the Civic Center area. That is a gateway into our city, as you all know. So this is a fantastic project for us, and we're really looking forward to getting that done. Civic Center, dirt moving. So you can see in the middle, dirt moving. You can see outside any of our windows, and as you're trying to find parking places. As an economic developer, that is my favorite thing in the whole world, is when dirt is moving and there's heavy equipment moving around. So we're really, really pleased. I know we're going to get an update also on the rec center, senior center, and theater later, so I won't focus on that. But I did want to tell you that there's 11 acres of the private sector piece of development that we have actually released an RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, to seek a master developer for the remaining 11 acres for the private sector development. That's been done. We're doing interviews with some of the developers this week, and then we hope to have a selection of a master developer by April 17th. So then you'll see some more dirt moving as soon as possible. So that's coming soon. I'm going to kind of go over these pretty quickly, but these are the Northglenn at a glance. I did want to just point out a couple things. As we've talked, and as you know, our demographics is changing rapidly here in Northglenn. With our median age of 33, that's actually gone down. It was 34 last year, so you can see it even getting younger. We talk about our demographics changing. Our average household income and per capita is increasing, which is a really good sign. College degrees are increasing. Again, highly educated people moving here to Northglenn. Interestingly enough, our population decreased by 211 people. Not quite sure about that or where I can actually focus on that, but of course with Carl's Farm and the Civic Center and all the other new housing that's going on, we'll definitely be seeing a population increase going forward in the future. So economic indicators, these are the numbers that we track in economic development. So as you can see, last year we had almost 142,000 square feet of office, retail, and industrial space absorbed. So it was leased or bought. We had 78 new businesses, 270 that brought 275 new storefront jobs, and absorbed 142,000 square feet. Again, as we talked about, there was 44 new home-based businesses. It always amazes me. 78 storefront and 44 home-based. Again, we're catering to those entrepreneurial small businesses, and they're thriving here in Northglenn. We did have 55 companies close, which made a net new businesses of 23. And those lists are in your report, so you've got a whole list of all the open businesses and all the closed businesses. We also had 89 new prospects. Approximately 40% of those have converted over to actual companies, which is great. A lot of the ones that were in there are ones that we would not have been able to qualify for. They would have come from the state Office of Economic Development and so forth, and they were much bigger than what we could have been able to use in our city or be able to handle in our city for space purposes. We also did 116 retention calls, which is huge. That means that we went one-on-one to 117 businesses. Business retention is the most important thing that we can do in the city of Northglenn. We see that as a priority, and we continue to make that as one of the highest efforts that we do. The year before, it was only about 78. So again, you can see we increased that. A lot of that was doing those where we went by actual centers, and we did walked through the entire center, talked to all the tenants in there. So we're going to do that again. We're going to focus on 3 to 4 other centers this year. And again, the lists are attached so you can kind of see that. Commercial building permits is also an economic indicator for us. As you can see, we had $23 million in commercial projects. The big ones there were Boondocks. They invested about $1.5 million. Ramus Law was huge, about $4.5 million. The Reserve, we had the Berkeley homes that came in, of course the Kiwanis Pool. So those are some of the big ones, but we had lots of little ones in there too. And you can see we were at 15 and we went up to 23. Each year I can tell you what each one of those spikes were, but you think about all the big projects we've done and that's how you track it. Sales tax history, as you can see, we stayed pretty steady this year. We were at 19.9 million last year. We're at 20.2 million. So we stayed pretty steady there. Northglenn housing statistics. Our average median home cost is $365. Inventory as of quarter 4, as December 23rd is when we took these off, was 11 days on the market. I mean, our houses are being put on the market and they're lasting 11 days. The 11 houses on the market is, we have one little stickler out there that's been on the market for a long time, which is actually inflating those average days on the market. But again, we are still the lowest of all of our neighboring Adams County cities by far. Unemployment, you can see that last year we were at 4.1% and we're at 2.5%. In the economic development world, at 3%, we're at full employment. Pretty much anybody who wants to work will be working at 3%, so we're even under that. This continues to be a problem in hiring people. So our businesses continue to have a lot of career fairs and a lot of advertising, and it is a problem. And it's not just here in Northglenn, it's throughout the entire Metro Denver area, as well as the entire economy through all the states. Just to give you a quick little highlights on quarter 4, we had some ribbon cuttings. Many of you were at them. Senior Hub, High Ride Cycle, Bed Bath & Beyond, we talked about that at $2.5 million. Boondocks at $1.5 million, and major renovation there. Count the Lights, and of course we had our after hours at Stonehawker, and thank you very much to the Historic Commission for helping us with that, as well as the fire trucks, so thank you very much for that as well. Really makes a difference. Commercial real estate, I'm just going to glance over this, but office we're at 3.9%, industrial at 1.8%, retail at 8.7%. We're on below almost every one of our cities, our neighboring cities, and definitely lower than the Metro Denver area in all of these areas. Even though our retail is up higher than I'd like it to be, of course. We've got a lot of open space. It is in the marketplace. We all know that. Hopefully with all of the revitalization, that's going to change. But if you look at our actual centers, there's not a lot of open spaces. There's like 1 or 2 spots in different places, but we don't have much in the way of retail with exception of the marketplace. Industrial, we've been running at 1%. Almost for the last 3 years. So again, it's very difficult to try to find industrial user space here in the city of Northglenn. And again, office space at 3.9, it's almost none. It's hard to do that. So that new office innovation is going to really help with the small spaces as well. Oop. And I'm going to go on to the last, which is urban renewal. I just want to touch base on that. Scooters, we all know that they've opened. This is a great redevelopment project. You probably all remember the Natural Grocers when it went in. That was almost 12 years ago. And as you see over in that far bottom right, they put in the underground infrastructure clear back then, waiting for that one pad to develop. And I always say that redevelopment is not for the faint of heart because it takes forever. And here's a perfect example of it. But Scooters is great. They actually hosted the courts, which just opened. We just had their ribbon cutting, 31,500 square feet of multi-sports complex. Second Time Sports is a retention project. Second Time Sports is over in what we call the where Saigon Basil is. Northglenn Square is what we call it, or some people call it the Northglenn Annex. So it's where Saigon Basil is over there in the dollar store. So as a retention effort, the Second Time Sports needed a new place to lease. They were going to move outside of our city. We were able to partner them with the courts, and they will be taking the front 4,000 square feet in the front, which will really give them a great opportunity with the exact target market that they're looking for with all of their equipment. And just kudos to the Northglenn Urban Renewal Authority. As you can see, since 1995, they've invested over $43 million in reinvestment back into our city, into our urban renewal areas. So they've just done a fabulous job. This last year, in 2019, we did 19 business grants that were for $158,000, but that leveraged $7.2 million in private commercial property investments that were actually made in improvements. So it just shows that 158, how much that small amount did to actually leverage how much private investment was actually being put into the city. So again, they've done an incredible job as well. And with that, I'm going to close, and do you have any questions for me? You have 37 pages that you can read of all the wonderful things that we did.
I just have a couple quick questions. Do we have a timeline on the Harkins project and when that might open?
Yes, well, from what I understand from HCP, I talked to them just last week, they're in the process right now of finalizing up their plans to be able to submit to the city. So they're working with Harkins on a new plan than they had originally started with, which is an improved plan, and it will be it's being proposed as a new prototype for Harkins. So that's what they're working on. I would say by, let's say, second quarter, we should probably see the plans coming in.
Okay, awesome. And then my other question is there any way that we could get an In-N-Out burger?
I knew you'd ask me that. I tried my hardest. And Carl's Farm will know that I even tried with them to try to get it done. The first In-N-Out burger is going to go to the Grove in Thornton, and because of the proximity of how close it is to Northglenn, they wouldn't consider us at this time. I know, I'm bummed too. Believe me, we tried. We tried for Civic
I
Center, we
assumed
tried
you
for
would have,
Carl's
but
Farm.
I needed to ask the question.
We tried for Marketplace. I said, it's too far now. It's plenty far now. But you know how they do the 3 to 5 mile radiuses in retail, and unfortunately, maybe when they start coming out, they'll see the need for more. But right now, it went to Thornton.
All right.
So we'll still be able to get it in a very close proximity. Other questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Debbie, I appreciate it. Okay, we're moving into public invited to be heard, 5 minutes per speaker. I have 4 names on my list. Statements are limited to 5 minutes and must be related to city business and matters of community interest. So, trying to read penmanship, I apologize.
My name is Sid.
Thanks, Sid, come on up.
First of all, Debbie Toll, would you please come to my shop tomorrow so I can show you the mess I'm talking about?
Oh,
I'll give you a call. I have been here before.
hi, yes,
Okay.
welcome.
We have a junkyard
Okay.
on the corner of my shop. It is rat infested. It's in my building. It's in Cartor's building, who did not make it tonight. We got Debt Masters, which is a new business in our building here. Jeff has been with me for 40 years. He's my backup tonight. And Lynn is with Green Tree, who this guy almost ran over one of her employees today. She'll talk about it. He's got strange people in there all hours of the day and night. I found rat mess in some of our vehicles that had to be stored for a short time. I've had rat mess in my building. I don't like it. This place is a fire hazard, okay? I've seen him grilling on top of this fire hazard. Where's he defecating? He's living there. Please tell me. All right? The police have been in there at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning because I had given them the key to the lock and harassed this man. Now he's changed the lock so they can't get in there anymore. The chief of police talked to me personally. All right? He gets out there with his blower and blows dirt all over our cars. Sand, dirt, rocks. If you've been to my shop, some of the cars I work on are worth $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 with $30,000 and $40,000 paint jobs. Stuff being blown over our cars. Stuff being blown over Green Tree's employees and their cars. Stuff being blown over Dent Master's cars. And Car Toys isn't here tonight. Why that is, I don't know, because I invited them. They were going to come. He has ruined very expensive details on 40-foot motorhomes for Car Toys with his blowing. He's been nasty to Green Tree customers. That's happened recently. He's threatened. He's threatening. He's not actually threatened me. He's been threatening. All right? You can take that any way you want. He was mad because I had to call the police to stop him from blowing stuff all over my customers' cars. The problem is he has more rights there than I do, and I'm paying to be there. That's a darn shame. He drives to the lot way too fast because he's trying to stay off the main streets because his license has been revoked. I'm sure he doesn't have any insurance for being there. I'm sure he has no car insurance. There's a very good possibility he has the wrong tags on his vehicles. Nice guy. The police have been out there way too much. They know who I'm talking about the second I call when I have to. They know who they call the second Lynn has to call. They know who we're talking about. All right? First name basis. The problem is each time it gets told that there's nothing they can do, his chest gets this much bigger. He can do anything he wants there. That's a darn shame. I have a car, I need to get out of there. He's got it blocked in. I can't get him to move his stuff to get it unblocked. What's up with that? Now I can't even get into the lot because he's changed the lock. I can keep cutting it off. He is threatening. He's explained to me that I haven't seen him mad yet. That you can make up that whatever you want. He sells stuff out of there. I pay sales tax. He's not. I'm sure that he's not registered with the city of Northglenn to be there. He has no lease to be there. He has no contract to be there. He's a squatter. And I'm worried about retaliation. I'm here right now. I'm here not complaining about him. I'm worried about retaliation. I'm worried about my significant other being here around him. He's a bad person. He needs to be gone. And if you look at that place, it's a fire hazard, it's dirty. Maybe if it was condemned, then we can get rid of it. That's really all I got to say. I think that's enough. And I need to give these people a chance to say what they got to say.
Thank you, Sid, for being here. So you were almost exactly at 5 minutes, so that's great. But we do have some information that we can share.
Yes, Mayor. Probably best to let the others speak on this topic, and then I'll invite Brooks Abota, our planning director, to come up and provide an update on the situation that's been ongoing.
Okay. So Ethan, are you speaking on the same topic?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
So I'm here representing Debt Master. Obviously, we're also in the same location on Melody Drive there. And, I mean, I'll take a little bit less aggressive approach. And we were promised in our lease, we're promised either the full lot or a portion of that lot to store our cars that we're working on in that lot. And we can't get in there, we can't do anything. Like Sid said, it's a junkyard, so obviously we have to clean it up. We can't do any of that. It's honestly gotten to the point where when I look at that, it looks like a place that should be condemned to me, but we have no way of changing that while he's there. So I won't take up much of your time. A lot of my topics are the same as his. Like he said, her employees, they're endangered by him. He's flying around, pushing up rocks, kicking up rocks. He doesn't have a license to drive, and he's driving all over the place. And he's a threat to our company, our business, and these guys' business as well. So that's really all I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
If you didn't sign in.
I didn't sign in.
That is true. Would you like to take a few minutes?
Yes.
You can use the rest of Ethan's time. How's that?
I'm not sure, we've only referred to this gentleman as he, but his name is Arnold. And he has a verbal contract with the owner of the building to be in the back, to be living in the back. Not to be living, just he has access to it, but he is living back there. And it's a verbal contract, so it renders anything that we have to say moot because he has this contract with the owner. The owner of the building is unreachable, and he does not respond to us. So 2 years ago, I watched this gentleman moving a truck with a plow on the front. He's contracted to remove the snow. He lifted the sidewalk with his plow because he's not, I don't know if he's been trained to run this plow or if he's just doing it because he has this verbal contract with the building owner, but he lifted the sidewalk and cracked it. and that crack has grown larger. Last year, one of our customers tripped on that crack and broke her wrist. I gave her the building owner's information to contact him to file a claim, but she said she had Medicaid, so her injury was treated through Medicaid. She did not contact the building owner, but that's the type of risk we take. Because of that, we have had to install at our expense barriers to keep people from driving up on that space, which he has done. The barriers were put there so that he wouldn't lift the sidewalk any further, because when he's using the plow, he can't see what he's doing and where he's moving the snow to. The other thing that he does is he uses this leaf blower to remove the snow, to remove rain when there's puddles. And he flies rocks around. When I've gone out to talk to him to ask him to please not use his leaf blower near customers' cars or our own cars, he's bowed up at me, got threatening, told me that I would be sorry. I've had to call the police multiple times just to ask him, please don't blow rocks on our customers' cars. Don't blow rocks on our employees' cars. Just stay away. And if he wants to blow the rocks, could he do it after hours? Could he do it when there isn't customers coming in and out of the parking lot? I've seen him during all hours of the day using that plow. When we have customers coming in and out during our business hours, we have lost customers as a result of it. People have told us because they've approached him in the parking lot and asked him to not blow rocks on their cars, that he's gotten threatening with them, and they've stopped shopping with us. And so he's a nuisance. Something needs to be done. We've done everything that we know to do, and now we're asking, please, for your help. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So I have two other public invited to be heard, but I think they're different topics. Is that correct? Okay. So City Manager Geyer, would you like to present a response?
Sure. As the gentleman indicated, Sid, you were here at City Council last year, and so I'm going to ask Brooke to come up and explain what is in progress. The city is very aware of this gentleman, and we're trying to make way in terms of resolving the issue, but Brooke will give you an update on where we're at and why this is a very challenging situation and not one that we've been able to just go in and fix overnight. This has taken weeks, if not months, and hoping that we can get to a point where we can get it resolved, but I'll let Brooke explain more of the intricacies.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council, and to those business owners here. This has been going on for about 9.5 months. One of the biggest challenges we have in this particular case is that the owner of the property, who we have had direct communication and interaction with on repeated occasions regarding this issue, has refused to confirm or deny that there is or is not a verbal contract. If he were to simply say there is no verbal contract, we could easily write him up for trespass and have him immediately removed. The owner of the property has refused to confirm one way or the other. So we have essentially tried to exhaust every means that we have under the code enforcement. We've also been partnering with the police department, in which the police department has monitored the property at overnight for the very reasons that you heard described just now. We were able to issue a summons to the individual in question. He has been before the judge, municipal court. He has requested a couple of extensions in seeking to retain legal counsel. In his last hearing, he showed up and requested a trial, which is now scheduled, I believe, for the docket here in early March. So this will come to a conclusion here shortly. This has been one of probably the most difficult cases we've had in the last 5 or 6 years as it relates to our ability to go in and perform in terms of a code enforcement measure. So with that being said, I will say that we are still very diligent about this particular case, and we've been working closely with not only the prosecuting attorney but also the city attorney on this particular case because of the nuances regarding our ability to serve. At one point, we had hired process servers trying to serve the property owner, who is quite elusive, owns multiple properties in the Front Range, in which we did make multiple attempts to serve him a summons directly, because that also would have been an easier step than serving the individual who is on the property. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
One of the questions I had, and I don't know if Chief May, if you're willing to address it, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm guessing that, I think he's behind you.
Yes, he's right there.
That you would recommend that they continue to keep calling you when they
Yeah.
feel threatened?
So, yeah, if he's making threats or anything, make sure you call us so we can, again, an actual threat. So make sure that you guys call and we can go over there and cite him. We have been trying to track him coming off property.
I got a video today of him loading the trailer up and going on the public street.
Bring that to me, okay, because we know that he's not, we've tried to sit on him and have, try to get him out, where he's driving out there, so, again, it's, Rick put it politically correct on, difficult dealing with the landlord, you have a pretty lousy landlord that doesn't help you, so, and we'll do our best, just make sure you keep us in the loop and keep calling us, okay? So.
I took a minute to pull it up on Google Earth just so that I had a visual, because having the address and sort of the general idea wasn't really giving me the visual, so that was helpful. That's what I.
It's a salvage yard. It's not allowed under the zoning.
Yeah.
From an enforcement standpoint, this is very straightforward. From the ability to execute on enforcement has been the biggest challenge.
What about the health concerns of that area? So he's living there. Is there some type of public health or Tri-County, something that we should also be concerned about?
So
Because
part of the
it's-
challenge, and which I believe the police have written him up on this already, so I believe it's one of the charges that we have, is that part of his claim is that he has a verbal contract to be the caretaker of the property, in which he is there to watch the property overnight, in which on those occasions that police have actually gone and caught him and have cited him, as I understand, for that particular thing. We literally have applied every opportunity to be able to enforce against this particular situation. The challenge is more in line in serving the right person and making sure that we have the strongest, most defensible case in front of the court, because ultimately that's where the challenge in this case particularly lies, because the landlord is essentially an absentee in this process. It has made it extremely challenging and difficult.
I guess for me, I'm just gonna make a comment. What I find this very, just really frustrating is the fact that we can't do anything now, knowing that we do have a public safety concern and obviously a health concern, somebody living in a property that's not made to be lived in. And yet, there's nothing we could do about it as a city.
Right, the question is that one, you have to catch them.
Yeah.
Two, that's the big thing. The second thing is his claim is that he is not sleeping there, that he is patrolling it at night. So there's a burden of proof that the police and/or, obviously code enforcement doesn't do, late night enforcement, but it's one of the burden of proof challenges that we've had in this particular case. The logic and rationale that goes through your mind has been a constant challenge for us in this particular case.
Okay, so we're looking at some type of resolution, hopefully at the beginning of March when he goes to
Correct.
trial.
Our goal is when going before the court is to get a rule in order to do a court-ordered abatement, where we will go onto the property and remove all the salvage yard materials and equipment on the property. And we've actually have already contacted particular contractors that we don't typically use for activities like this in advance, so that when we do get the rule and order, we'll do it to the letter of the law. But once the time for cure has expired and it hasn't been cleaned up, we will go in and do what we need to do.
So then are those costs passed on to the owner of this property
It'll
then?
be leaned against the property.
Okay.
So will that be a penalty against the building owner?
Yes. Well, in this particular case, because we've cited the occupier, there's potential penalty for them as well, but the court-ordered abatement will likely go to the property owner.
Yes, sir.
He's not there to guard the place at all. That's for sure. And the agreement was 2 trucks and 2 trailers to keep up lawn maintenance and snow removal, and that is it.
The yard's packed now, there's gotta be a dozen cars there, salvage trucks, broken down
Antonio?
Yeah, my communication is to you, Mr. Steer, both, all of you. You just heard Mr. Zabota's response. Over this 9-month period, have you been communicating with the city?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we've had ongoing conversations, and we're all well aware of the individual concerns that I shared
Okay,
tonight.
I guess I don't want to assume anything, so I have to ask the question. It's been 9 months and nothing's been done, then why are you back here? Kind of, that's kind of the question.
Because a week ago, he confronted me. He was mad because I called the police when they were leaf blowing. The police came out and said, we can't do anything about it, because Arnold said he's supposed to be doing this. Fortunately, right at that time, for a change, something worked out, and Brian, the owner, was right there, and I called Brian over, and they said, who are you? He explained, he says, you want him here? I says, I want him off my property, I don't want him to do anything. And Arnold kept on blowing the property, and he says, no, this is my job, and the police asked him to stop. And he wouldn't, and then the police lifted his chest out and says, if you don't stop right now, we are going to take you to jail. And that's when he stopped. But he has no respect for the law at all. He has no respect for me. He has no respect for anyone, and he does whatever he wants to do in that building.
Okay, my only concern was that excuse me, the city is addressing and has been
Yes.
addressing the problem.
But if this is going to get hurt, if not by getting run over, like almost happened today, getting hit by a flying rock when he's blowing. I worry that one of these days, this man that says, you haven't seen me man yet, is going to be man enough to hurt me or someone else on this property.
Thank you all for coming again tonight, and I know we've taken notes. I saw that happening the whole time, so I appreciate it. Next up, Braden Washington. Welcome back.
Hello, Madam Mayor, Council.
Hello.
I guess on a lighter note, I'll introduce myself first. Name's Braden Washington, Community Relations at Be Good Northglenn. We are a vertically integrated medical and recreational dispensary here in Northglenn. Just have some updates on the Northglenn Thornton food drive that just started. My community partner, John Algie, was absent tonight, so he gave me some notes to discuss here at the meeting. First off is we've begun collecting the food from several areas of collection points. We are proud to say here, being in Northglenn, that we do have a lead right now on Thornton in food collection, so that's exciting. That will continue tomorrow. John will be out at various points to pick up the food. We already got a couple pallets filled up at the warehouse over there across the highway. Shopping day will be coming up next month, Saturday the 21st. That'll be at 9:30, and then it'll be followed the next weekend with a distribution day on 3/28 at 9 a.m. Other than that, he's got flyers going out at Periodic Brewing and Mother, I want to say this right, Tucker Brewing, and he did get permission for that. So yeah, just wanted to give you folks an update on that. We're excited to have it going and get the food collected. So.
Thank you. And am I correct in that you are now officially a Rotarian?
Oh, thank you. Yes, and as of last Tuesday, I had my official installment. Got to talk in front of the great community leaders there at the Northglenn Thornton meeting and tell them a little bit about myself. And I am now official Rotarian. So thank you for reminding me of that.
Congratulations.
And I'd like to personally thank Councilman Randall Peterson for coming out to the Be Good Northglenn facility and taking a tour of our facility and seeing why we wake up every day and why we're very passionate about what we do. So thank you very much for coming in and seeing that.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
Have
the
a good
update.
night.
Okay, next I have Michael and Robin. Can you tell me your...
Michael Ayers, and this is my wife Robin, and our
Ayers.
neighbor Frankie Dean.
Thank you.
We live on Downing Drive on the other side of Washington, on the east side of Washington. And there are two houses on the corner of Clarkson and Malley, 11371 and 11381, one being a body man, the other one being a mechanic. And they've been a nuisance for, I believe, at least 2 years with parking cars in the neighborhood. At one time, they were doing auto body repair work in the garage on 11381. There was an automotive frame machine in there. And I seen him doing it. And we have turned him into code enforcement. And he's been issued tickets for non-licensed cars and various other things. But he still continues to park up the neighborhood. Then we were told that if we filed a complaint and they issued him a ticket, that we could appear in a court and testify against him. Well, I kind of thought about it and was worried about retaliation, and we were told that other people would complain, but they weren't willing to do it either. So after like 6 or 8 months, we'd had enough, and I decided to do it. I said, we'll do it. So then we were informed that all this continued. We were informed that we need somebody to take pictures, have me stand on the corner where he could see me and take pictures. They needed to catch him in the action. This guy has gotten so crafty, he knows that you guys only work during the week. He keeps it on the down low and then cranks it up nights and weekends. And then he relocated his little enterprise to, I think, that Charlie's place you're talking about, that they're going to build a 7-Eleven. But the cars are still there.
He's using it as an overflow, and it's gotten so bad, there's 15 to 20 cars on both sides of that street. You can't turn around in there in the dark. You have to be really careful. And then he's got a picture, show me a picture.
I've got some pictures.
There's a car that's been there all weekend that's parked at least 5 feet in front of the stop sign. And then the people that live on the opposite corner, they park right up to the stop sign, so you have to pull way out to see. I've almost been broadsided a couple times, you know. That's a busy area, you know, when the rush go getting out of the neighborhood.
And then the opposite side, coming in off Washington to turn right into Malley, they usually park a car right there, and that corner is very, very dark.
He parks dump trucks there, tractors that go to semis. They took the fence out in between 1178 and 11, those two addresses, he said, paved it and made a parking lot. So.
And I'm in auto body trade, and if they're doing body work in there, it involves fluids, like spray paint, primer.
You can smell it when you go, you can smell it at our house.
Automotive fluids like antifreeze, oil, transmission fluid. What are they doing with it?
Officer Krebs has tried to help us before, but I mean, her hands are tied because by all looks of it, you know, I think they've had ticketed cars before because the dump truck doesn't come anymore and the semi doesn't come anymore. And then he kind of, you know, tones it back a little bit, but those pictures were just yesterday.
Saturday.
And they have like little marks, like, you know, they write on your window what needs to be done.
It's called
They don't
mapping
have license
for an auto body
plates.
shop.
They don't have, a lot of them don't have any of it. So it's getting to be a real challenge to turn in on that street, to turn out on that street. We know what I took pictures, which I think deleted. He had his door open really quick, took a picture of the frame machine, and a flatbed was delivering cars right off of Malley there in Washington, blocked the whole street to deliver cars in there. And when he saw what I was doing, he snapped the door shut really quick. So we just thought you guys would want to know if there's anything they can do. Because we love Northglenn, we lived here for 16 years. This is actually this first council meeting we've been at, except for the yard of the month that we got last summer. But we're hoping that you can help us.
Yeah, the issue we're here for now, that we're dealing with, is them parking so close to the corners that we can't get out onto Malley.
Okay.
Well, and if they're gonna put a 7-Eleven where he technically has his business, what's gonna happen now? Because that's where he said he had a yard sign saying his business had relocated by that U-Haul on 112th in Irma. And I don't know if it was a facade or what he was doing, but if it was an attempt in a legitimate business, if that goes away, it's gonna get a whole lot worse where we're at.
Okay.
She at one time got flipped off by the guy that parked the dump truck in the neighborhood because she was trying to go home.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm assuming this has gone through code enforcement, and you are probably already aware.
Yes, they are aware.
This is this is another tough case, and so Chief May's in the back, Brooks in the back. Primarily, this falls within parking on the police department side. So we'll get the pictures, and we'll if you can check in with Chief May before you leave tonight. Have a additional conversation, but it is a challenging situation, and it sounds like the individual is getting more creative, so we will connect and try to get more creative in terms of our enforcement approach and try to get resolution to the
And
issue.
he knows you guys only work 8 to 5, so he keeps it on down low.
Yeah, that's not of concern. We will get creative in terms of our enforcement approach and make sure that we do what it takes to make sure that this individual knows that this activity is not allowable, and so you will see further action taken in the days coming.
Thank you.
I have one more question. Being a disabled person, and I might want to come to more council meetings, but we parked up top because we didn't know that it's dark, so it didn't look like you could come down here, and I can't walk downhill upstairs and all that. So halfway down the hill on my mobility scooter, I drove on the grass because I didn't know. So so you can park down here? Is that, you can't?
He's asking if you can get through that barrier that's up there to come
So if I
down here,
want-
You can't.
pick her up.
Okay.
You can go through the gate.
It was just dark and we didn't know if we got back there, we'd get stuck and not be able to come down. So I drove my scooter on the grass and.
Well, I think that's a really good point. With the construction, I think access to City Hall is
Yeah.
confusing, and that's a concern. So I think we
Or
need
a
to,
sign with a light on it, maybe.
yes,
Yeah.
totally.
Thank you so much.
I think we can do that. And Chief May is waiting to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move into communications. We've moved this to the front. I will start with Ward 1.
Okay, I'll start. On February 11th, last week, I attended the Historic Preservation Commission, but I will let Joyce talk about that.
No, you can go ahead. Go ahead. Liaison.
Oh, well, I am the ex officio liaison, I guess, to the board, and so I attended and got to meet everybody, which was awesome. And yeah, I like what they're doing there, and I'm looking forward to attending the meetings. Unfortunately, they conflict with CPAN meetings at the time, or right now, but we'll see if that changes. I didn't get an email about rescheduling the date, by the way.
We're not rescheduling.
Okay, all right. All right, then. Okay, so then, on February 18th, I attended the North Metro Fire Rescue Board meeting. It was kind of an exciting meeting. It was a packed house because they had an oath of office for a captain, Mark Doherty, and then they also, the board approved a resolution to recognize all sworn employees holding the rank of line captain or below as part of collective bargaining unit for purposes of negotiating a collective bargaining agreement. They were very excited about this, and they had cake afterwards. Mouthful, but they were really excited about it. And then on February 19th, we had the Vail Board meeting. We welcomed a new member, Steve Blackburn. We also elected a vice chair, Pat Marquez, who has been on Vail for 20 years. And then on last Friday, February 21st, I attended the ribbon cutting with a few other council members for the courts. And Scooter's Coffee was also there with refreshments, and that was a great time. That was my first ribbon cutting, so I was excited. And then a couple things I just want to announce. The North Metro Fire Rescue District, they're having their Citizens Academy. I think I mentioned this before, but you have until March 2nd to apply to do that, and then they begin on April 1st. And they're also having elections for their board of directors. That's happening on May 5th. And we do have 2 Northglenn candidates, so be sure to look into that. And as far as volunteer opportunities, we've got the Farmers Highline Canal cleanup coming up on March 14th. And then you'll have lunch if you volunteer, so go ahead to the rec center and sign up for that. That's all I've got.
Ashley, who
Yes.
are the Northglenn residents that are?
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to mention or not, but the Northglenn residents who are running for the board of directors are Jenny Murphy and Jim Long.
Oh, very good.
So they're up for reelection and they hope that they will get it.
And there are other people running also, though?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure if there are others running. They didn't mention it at that meeting.
Okay, a couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the Colorado Municipal League's legislative workshop. Many other council members joined in some capacity. Fascinating thing to take a look at the issues that are facing us at the state level that affects us directly in Northglenn and other local municipalities. I had the opportunity to hear Denver Mayor Hancock and the governor speak on issues of importance to them. Had a nice opportunity to listen to the lobbyists and the status of many of the bills that will affect our community here in Northglenn. One of the things that emerged in my attending the CML workshop was, and something we all know, is the importance of transportation in our region. And they really, really emphasized, and Councilwoman Goff can probably attest to this as well, but the issue of the necessity for statewide financing and solutions for transportation. And just kind of something to keep in mind. The Speaker of the House was also there representing Boulder, and she indicated that if the state doesn't do what they need to do with both funding and infrastructure, then the next step down the road is for localities to take up those issues on their own in terms of what works for us if the state isn't going to do that. And yet, the idea of putting something on the ballot and funding a potential tax increase outside of Tabor remains very difficult. And so this is a problem I just want to continue to study and look into. Affects all of us in terms of the decisions we make. And I know it's kind of a monkey's paw, and yet I left a little bit pessimistic taking a look at knowing what the challenges are for meeting the transportation needs in the North Metro area for the next 20 years. As Graydon said, I had the opportunity last Saturday to attend at his invitation a tour of the Be Good marijuana dispensary. And so I want to thank you for that very much. Had the opportunity to meet the proprietor, the president, and learn about the grow operations and the sales. And I just want to indicate, the first thing that they indicated to me when I was there, they went out of the way to tell me, and they didn't have to tell me, but they went out of the way to tell me that they care about our community. And I think that's evident by you being here and the food drive and the work that you guys do. And so, as a councilman, I'm always interested in learning more about our businesses, learning more about our community, and so I appreciate the invitation to learn about the work you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple things. We did have the Historic Preservation Commission meeting and did welcome Ashley, and it was great. And we're working on several different projects. And the main one right now is waiting to see if we are receiving a grant for the Desert Estate so that we can actually go and evaluate different homes there. So we're waiting for that result. I don't know what that's going to be. Hopefully, it will work out. Also, I didn't go to the Vale Board meeting this time because we seem to be having some of our meetings bouncing on the same days, So I went to the Arts and Humanities Foundation and was participating in the selection for Arts on Parade for this year. So we had about 51 selections to look at, and they're all great, so I'm not quite sure what we're going to do with that. But that's Michael's job. So. And along with several other council people, I attended the ribbon cutting over the courts, which is very awesome. And it's really interesting how they can adjust the different courts and the different way the basketball levels, move back and forth. And, it was very interesting. And the owner was very, very excited. And Scooters gave us really good. So with that, I'll let you go.
Okay, well,
It's been a while, it seems like, since we met, so I've been kind of busy. I did attend the CML, the Colorado Municipal League Legislative Workshop with Councilmember Peterson. And one of the bills that he was referring to is being worked on or being proposed, would allow local areas to come up with their, like a local transportation district instead of just RTD. It would be, like, let's say, Thornton and Northglenn wanted to get together and create one. And then they would be able to seek funding for projects within their district. And so that is one way to actually possibly get some funding and get something accomplished for areas that need it. But the downside of that is that there will be maybe in rural areas or lower economic areas where that will never happen. So there'll be a huge disparity possibly between, access to public transportation. So it is a thorny issue that continues to be addressed and not solved yet. The other thing, on February 19th, I went to a teacher appreciation dinner here in Northglenn. It was hosted by the Mormon the Church of the Latter-day Saints here in Northglenn. And they honored, it was in coordination with Adams 12 5-star schools, and they did honor a lot of teachers. And it was really interesting for my husband and I, who are both retired teachers from Adams 12, to see teachers that we know receiving awards. And it's just very heartwarming to hear students talk about teachers. One was, these are all high school students, and one was honoring a 5th grade teacher that she remembered the impact she'd had on her life. So that was very, very good event to attend. And then February 20th, I attended the Rangeview Library District meeting, monthly meeting. And a couple of things they talked about there. One that was really interesting is that they are putting up a display at DIA. And as far as they know, that's the only library in Colorado that's ever had the opportunity to do that. So that would something they were very proud to share. And then they hosted a town hall at the Huron branch of Anythink Libraries that I also attended this last weekend. And Representative Kyle Mullica and Senator Faith Winter were there. And the major theme there was RTD and what's going on with that. And so still hopeful that the end line will open this August. That's what they're still saying and hoping for. So we'll wait and see. That remains to be seen. Let's see. And then the other thing that the Anythink Library people are hosting coming up later I think it's in March. I left my notes on that at home, but they're doing a screening of a movie called American Creed, which is about civic engagement. And it's free, but they do want people to register just so they know how much to handle. And following that screening, it's a documentary, then there will be discussion amongst the people who attend that. And then the last thing was I did also attend the ribbon cutting at the courts. And beyond everything that we've already heard about that, I was very excited to know that they can and do have plans in the future to do pickleball. So
That's right.
put in my pitch for that.
That's right, you did. Okay, so I really just have transportation updates tonight. So I attended Dr. Cog this past Wednesday, and just as Randall and Catherine talked about, the biggest event that happened that night was discussion of House Bill 1151, which is the expanding authority of regional transportation improvements. And that's what they're talking about, is this bill would give organizations like Dr. Cog the ability to form what is called a regional transportation authority, which allows them to have the taxing authority for transportation improvements. The discussion was very lively, and it did include a hammer and some flames, so from the mayor of Louisville. And so overall, I think people are really just torn on going for a statewide option for transportation funding versus those who are just like, let's just try and get some money to address some of our needs now. So that was very lively. Other than that, some other updates. So RTD did host several elected officials on a tour of the progress of the N line. So that was on Valentine's Day, February 14th. I was not able to attend, but I received detailed notes from others. The news was not good. So there's several issues where there's definitely some ADA compliance issues. There is parking garage issues with structural concerns that they don't actually even think hold cars. And this all stems from, you may have seen the article about RTD's dispute with this particular contractor. The work's not getting done, the deadlines aren't getting met, and this is essentially the barrier that prohibits RTD from moving forward with the part of their testing they need to do for the N line. So, if the N line opens in August, I will be very surprised. Let me just say that. So, and we've been very clear with Vince Busick, our RTD director, that if it doesn't open, if you don't think it's going to happen in August, just tell us sooner rather than later, because I think that that's the best thing that we could do is not get our hopes up. So, the good news from RTD though is that they are getting their new interim general manager, who is Paul Ballard. He's going to be starting, well, he started today, actually, and in his interview with the board, he did specifically state that finishing the N line was his #1 priority. So we're hoping that we could see kind of a change of tide with RTD and really hoping to prioritize this project. Other than that, the only other good news, I guess, coming out of the transportation world, and this is a big thanks to Commissioner Steve O'Dorisio, who's played a huge role in making sure that we're getting some funds for moving forward with widening 270, which I'm sure everybody hates. I hate 270, I hate whenever I have to drive it. And so those initial steps for design and development are going to be coming from CEDA. So that's all I got for tonight.
Okay, for me, thank you for the presidents who took the day off on Monday. I'm much appreciative of family time that I was able to enjoy. If you notice, I have a little blue button here that says Teen Boy. Our third great-grandson will arrive sometime in June. So we're pretty excited about that. City business, I attended the courts. And again, fabulous facility. I used to drive down Washington Street and see this empty lot forever and ever and ever. It looked like nothing was ever going to go in there. Now it looks beautiful. It is great. Attended the Northglenn Senior Center organization meeting this morning, and they're excited about the activities that they're going to be able to get involved in, the census at the rec center. They were very excited about our about us being finalists for the Diversity Award through National League of Cities, which I assume you're going to be there to accept for us.
I will be there.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're also very excited about the food bank. And we had a long conversation about students in Northglenn, how they, a hungry student doesn't learn. They're focused on what's going on down here, not what's going on up here. So they're pretty excited about getting involved in that. And what else did I do? That's probably all for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have a few things. Let's see, first of all, thank you to Susan. We were trying to lighten up February a little bit. Today is National Tortilla Chip Day. So that is a little token to give you a smile. We can celebrate. An update for council, or just a reminder that next time, bring your folders and your notes about council protocol and communication norms. We're going to continue that work in a study session. The Highline Canal cleanup is March 14th, as Ashley mentioned, but the mayor's mingle is also right after that. So whether you volunteer or not, that will be the timely mingle with the mayor for March. and I would love to see people come out and we can chat. I was privileged to go to the Northglenn Thornton Rotary meeting on February 10th, I believe, no, February 11th. And it was a wonderful group. It was my first experience, and it's a very well-run, well-organized organization and very fun. They are a lively bunch. And so I was happy to present, sort of did a small state of the city, brought them up on our current projects. And thank you to Debbie Tuttle. She provided a nice backbone presentation with all the economic development work, which was really exciting. And then I just kind of tweaked it and put some council updates in there as well. And then just a reminder again about the food drive. We have a very friendly competition going with Thornton, and we want to win. And so we have some incentives within the city and on council. So if you are dedicated to helping your ward, you want to donate, there are locations all around the city, and you can help us help our residents. The bottom line after the competition is that it benefits our residents in need. So think about doing that. And I just wanted to wrap up with, I was going to figure out how to do it without crying, but I just want to offer a public condolence to Councilmember Brown. Her father passed away, and I know we all have our hearts and prayers with her right now. We look forward to her coming back. It's just terrible, so I feel bad. And that was my final thing. So, Joanna, do you have anything tonight?
I do have two quick updates. First, the voter service and polling centers opened today for the March 3rd primary election. They're open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Excuse me. They will be open on Saturday, February 29th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then on Election Day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The closest location to the city of Northglenn is the Adams County Economic Development Office over off of 122nd and Pecos, so please take advantage of the services that they offer there. And then the second item is regarding the Ralston House dinner at 240 Union on Sunday, March 8th. There are 2 tickets remaining for that event, so if you have not already expressed your interest in attending, please contact Susan Baca in the city manager's office and she'll get you set up for that.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Mayor and Council. 2 items for you this evening. As mentioned just a few minutes ago, the city is a finalist for the National League of Cities Cultural Diversity Award. And so this award is going to be presented to the first and second place recipients at the National League of Cities Congressional Cities Conference on March 8th. I do need to know who council would like to accept the award on the city's behalf. We can only have one individual actually go up on stage and accept the award. We received 3 complimentary breakfast tickets. And so if I could get direction from council on who we can provide that name to, if it's Councilmember Downing, who will be in DC, that's one option, but would like direction on that this evening because we do have a quick turnaround time on that name in terms of letting them know.
The date again?
It is March 8th, if I have that right.
On a Sunday?
No, it's March 9th, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
It's a Monday morning.
Who is going to DC? Yeah.
I'll be there.
Just you?
I'm going to be at the
Oh, no.
conference.
Are
Sorry.
you the only one?
Anybody else
Yeah,
going?
well, Ashley's trying to.
Yeah, but regardless, I think it.
Right.
All right, you'll be there.
Like, always do it.
Okay, and then if there are other council members that are planning to attend, just let Susan know. Again, we get 3 complimentary tickets, but we have to let NLC know by Friday, the 28th, who's going to accept, so I'll provide them with Councilmember Downing's name. The second item is that on April 28th, we are working on a joint dinner with Adams 12 5-star schools. And I would like to get any feedback from council on topics that you would like to discuss with members of the school board, as well as Superintendent Chris Godowski. As of now, I know that their president, Kathy Plomer, will be in attendance, Laura Mitchell, the vice president, Jamie Lockley, secretary, Brian Batts, director, and Lori Goldstein, director, will all be in attendance at the dinner. We will be hosting at the Justice Center, and it'll be a catered dinner. The managers and mayors did have a meeting Friday morning, and Superintendent Godowski did provide, he was our guest and provided an update to the managers and mayors about some budget challenges that Adams 12 is experiencing given decreased enrollment. And so I'll be following up with Chris to get more information, but they are probably going to be making an ask in terms of requesting that the city look at possibly covering full-time SROs. In terms of our IGA, right now we split the cost 50-50. Broomfield has done this, which has allowed them to take those funds and allocate them elsewhere. They are looking at trying to figure out ways to increase mental health resources within the district in light of the losses that they've experienced over the last several months. Superintendent Godowski did update mayors and managers and provided that there's been 9 student losses going back to early fall of last year. And certainly in Northglenn, we've experienced a couple of those losses. And so they're trying to find different ways, potentially talking about pilot programs with the municipalities in terms of increasing mental health resources for not only the students through counselors, but also for the staff. They've seen a significant need as a result of staff burnout, given those staff members who are involved in crisis intervention and response. And so I'll be working with him to try to get more of an idea of what their request of Northglenn might look like. So that could, those 2 areas could be part of what we can discuss with them further on April 28th. But looking for direction from all of you if you have any particular things that you'd like to discuss with Adams 12 during this dinner.
Do we have a time set for that?
I believe.
And that's a Tuesday, right?
Yeah, it is. I think we were looking at, I don't have a time yet, but it'll probably be 6 o'clock, but I'll get that confirmed.
Heather, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I was unable to attend that meeting on Friday. Was there any mention of March 19th at the meeting? The possibility of teachers not being available?
No.
No, okay.
There was not, and I'm still awaiting details for the community meeting that Adams 12 will be putting on. I don't have those yet.
Corey looked perplexed. There's a CEA is organizing a walk on the Capitol.
Okay.
And that happened 2 years ago. And so most districts said, we're not having classes, like a snow day, but not.
I remember it well.
Yes, so I was just wondering, because, you know, little by little, districts are starting to announce that they won't be open, so. Okay, as always, Heather, for me, the mental health piece is great. School safety is always a priority. Those are my 2 ones. Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I'd add, because I was going to say school safety, but then also food insecurity among Adams 12 students. If they have any updated data or anything, or to talk to what are the current needs in the district, I think that that's a really important issue for Adams County.
Yes.
Actually, I'm going to add one,
Mhm.
just because it kind of pairs with conversations we're going to have, is if they have data on student vaping, That would be really interesting, and also the data that goes with how they're disciplining that at this time. Because there's a variety of ways to do that, so.
That just triggered something for me, Madam Mayor, too, and not to put too much burden on the school district, but I think data on student homelessness and school programs combating homelessness would, you know, if they have it, that would be essential to help us as we form our homelessness task force.
Okay. And the one thing I forgot to share, I've captured all of those pieces of feedback. I did ask the school district if there's any thoughts they have in terms of something that the council, mayor and council, that you can do, the city can do to express to our teachers, especially at our schools that have experienced the tragic loss of students this year. And so Priscilla's going to follow up with me and let me know what that might look like. So I'll be sharing that with you once I have that information.
My brain just turned on. Go for it. And I mean this in a good way, not to point fingers. From the time that I worked for the district and after retirement and to date, one of my biggest concerns, particularly when I worked for the district, was suspension and expulsion as it relates to ethnicity. And I think we've made a lot of progress there, but I'd like to see their numbers if they have.
Okay. The only other update I have for Mayor and Council this evening is Rupa Venkatesh is now here in Colorado. She made it to Colorado yesterday. She texted me. Her brother was kind enough to drive out with her. Moved here from North Carolina. She will start with the city on Thursday as our new assistant to the city manager. So I'll officially introduce Rupa to you on Monday evening at the city council study session.
Great, exciting.
Thank you. Hello.
Good evening. I actually have two items tonight. The first is that I provided council with a memo last week. The mayor had been approached by some constituents about different types of voting. And so the mayor asked me to kind of give a quick overview this evening. I think probably the most important point is if either of those alternative methods of voting, one's called ranked choice voting and the other's called approval voting, if either of those are attractive to council as a possibility, it requires a charter amendment in Northglenn. And that's probably the most important point, is if this is something that the city council would like to explore, ultimately it would require an amendment to the charter, because our charter essentially requires what I would call traditional voting. So you have what each type of voting is. One is essentially ranking candidates as opposed to voting just for one. Another is putting approve or disapprove by candidates and narrowing it down. It's sort of like doing, in both cases, a runoff in the same election. It's a different methodologies. A couple of communities in Colorado do it. Basalt and Telluride use the ranked choice voting for their mayoral election. So you've got the analysis. If it is something that council would like to pursue, you can do a charter amendment, present a charter amendment to the people at any point. You can also combine it with a already scheduled election if you choose. You just have to put the ballot question on by resolution, if that's something you choose to do at any point.
So just a little background on that. It was multiple voters that had mentioned it. And so I appreciated, when I read your memo, the specific differences between the two and our current system. And also the part about Aspen trying it and then changing their mind. I thought that was really interesting. But I wanted to make sure that all of council was aware of the options. And if that was something that you wanted to move forward with, that we could either say yes or no to.
I'm not interested.
Okay.
Yes, I would agree. I think it makes it too complicated.
First impression on this, and after reading the menu, is
The menu.
not thinking about food.
Here you go.
I got, yeah, chipped it.
Yeah, chip, chip.
No, after reading the memo, I'm leaning towards a no unless there's a need. But, and I appreciate the voters coming forward on that. But, to me, the concept has the, kind of like, almost like the purview of like a none of the above kind of thing. And so I would want to see what's the origin of this, what's the need, and until I learn more, I'm leaning against it.
I have actually done a little bit of research on this, and I am intrigued by the concept. And my understanding is that it is a way to circumvent some of the polarization in voting, because it's since people are at least the rank vote. If everybody's voting 1, 2, 3, 4, listing their candidates, and then no one candidate gets more than 50% of the vote, then they drop off the lowest candidate or whatever, and then they kind of because we have computers now, then you can restructure it, and then the people, you'll be able to see who, like everybody will get either their first or second choice candidate in most cases. So it's a good way to prevent some of that polarization. But because we're a nonpartisan, position as city council, I don't know that I see the need for it at this level. So, I would be a proponent for it at some higher levels of, elections. But I guess at this point, I think I'd like to wait and see. I'd hold off, because first of all, I don't know how many of our constituents, or our voters, our citizens would be interested. So after a couple of, ward meetings, and, if we were to talk about it, we might get some feedback and come back at a future time and talk about it again.
I guess my response to that would be, I don't really believe that elections belong to the people who are sitting up here. They belong to the people who do them. And so if our citizens feel like that's something that they'd really like to pursue, and those that brought this idea to you is something that they're really passionate about and want to, engage the rest of our community and do a petition process, and I welcome that 100%, because, these elections belong to the citizens of Northglenn. They don't belong to us.
Right, and just before we move on, if they were to come and speak to us,
yeah,
that would be great, because then we could hear what their reasoning is behind it. I mean, I just have my opinion. I don't know what theirs is.
Yeah. So I mean, whoever these folks are, if they truly believe that this is the way that Northglenn should go, then let's talk about it and organize. But I mean, the election doesn't belong to me.
Well, agreeing with Julie, the elections belong to the electorate. I'm not in favor of it. Couldn't get a gender-neutral approval. I doubt that we would get any kind of approval trying to explain it to anybody.
Different.
So, I think, I don't know where we go from here. I think just my opinion was I wanted the information before I could have an opinion, yes or no. After learning about it and understanding the pros and cons and the process with which it would require a change, I'm not in favor of it. But I, kind of to Julie's point, if to get it on the ballot, what is that process?
It is an initiated process, a petitioning process. You can put a charter amendment on the ballot by getting signatures using the initiative process in the Northglenn charter.
So how many signatures and is?
I don't remember what the current number is. Johanna, do you know roughly?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I could share that with council.
Okay. Is there a cost to the city?
Just the cost of the election and the cost of processing the initiative process, but no additional cost.
No. Okay. I think that's valuable information. If anyone out there is interested, perhaps they can reach out to the city clerk and learn about the process if they want to gather the signatures. I knowing the statistics of how few cities in Colorado use it, I don't believe it's a necessary thing at this time, but that's just, so. Thank you, and then I'm sure in the future we'll hear from Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Brown to get their ideas, so. But to your point, if people are bringing it up at ward meetings and generating interest, then the conversation can move forward at a later date. Thank you.
Item number 2, and not a coincidence, or I mean, actually totally a coincidence based on, even though you had the citizens invited to be heard tonight about nuisance. I would like to get your approval to bring an ordinance forward on first reading at your next meeting that addresses some of the concerns that were raised tonight. One of the things we've been working on is making the process faster for what we would define as recurring and significant nuisances. The way we've defined it in the draft ordinances is 3 occasions within 60 days or a substantial threat to the public health and safety. Frankly, the way our processes work, you heard tonight that we have a trial date out in March. And we'd like to try to accelerate that process for the worst of the worst. There are homes in the community that are substantially impacting their neighbors. There's businesses in the community that are substantially impacting their our neighbors that are more than run-of-the-mill nuisances. This would require those cases to actually be brought to trial within 28 days of it being served. It is an expedited process. We've run it by the judge, got her input on this draft ordinance. It is really speeding up the process once we have identified those recurring and significant nuisances. So it creates a new category, if you will. So with your permission, we'd like to bring it forward at the next regular meeting and get this going.
I agree.
Yes.
Sounds good.
100%.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for everyone's patience. I get so squeaky when I cry, and that's terrible. I just really, I just feel bad for our friend here. Okay, so now we're moving into the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
We did miss the legislative policy committee update. You want me to do that briefly?
Sure.
Sorry.
No, jump in.
I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing us talk over and over and over again, but I do need to provide just a quick legislative policy committee update. We did meet right before this meeting, and we did talk about several bills. The first one is Senate Bill 151, titled Administration of the RTD Regional Transportation District. So this bill is in flux essentially, but it's the legislative approach to trying to hold RTD more accountable and trying to make some tweaks to improve them and their service and a handful of other things. So we agreed to monitor this bill. There are some concerns that we have with it. In particular, we want to make sure that the interests of our community are accurately, I guess, reflected in the bill and how it moves forward. So our lobbyist is going to be involved in those conversations. We did take a position on House Bill 1287, which is the Colorado Rights Act. We did choose to oppose. House Bill 1319, titled Prohibit Sale of Flavored Nicotine Products. We did agree to monitor and just stay neutral on that bill for now. We do have House Bill 1308, titled Non-Substantive Emails and Open Meetings Law. We also agreed to monitor that. House Bill 1233, Basic Life Functions in Public Spaces. We're going to continue to stay at a monitor to see how that bill moves forward. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okie dokie, we have a public hearing, Carl's Farm. So I will now open the public hearing on the Carl's Farm filing number 1, subdivision preliminary and final plat. feel like I should bang this, but it doesn't say. Brooke, do you want to join us? Director of Planning and Development?
All of them.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Eric has only given me 2 slides in tonight's presentation, so you'll all be very happy about that. This is slide number 1, and then I'm going to sit down. So also with this particular presentation, this public hearing tonight, there are other council resolutions that are in your packet that are related to this project. And so at the end of this presentation that staff is going to present to you, I'm going to come back up and talk about the related relevance to these particular council action items, as they are sort of the meat and potatoes of how we go about approving a final plat. So I will walk through the mechanical pieces of that, and also why we're doing it the way we're doing it, and also how this ties into not only the development agreement, the subdivision improvement agreement, but also we have a cost share agreement, and then the CDOT IGA. So I will kind of put a bow on the bigger picture here as those relate to the presentation tonight. And with that, I'm going to step back and let Eric take over.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. My name is Eric Enzi, Senior Planner with the city. We'll go ahead and start the presentation here. The applicant in this case is Carl's Farm Investors in collaboration with Richmond American Homes and Meritage Homes. This is a request for approval of a preliminary and a final subdivision plat. We'll go over what that means here in a little bit. The location of the property is obviously the Carl's Farm property, which is located north of 120th Avenue between Irma and Race. This gives you an idea just graphically of the location of the property. You can see the red dot, so that's where Carl's Farm property is. This is kind of a blow up of that area just so you can see the actual configuration of the lot in relation to the surrounding properties. In terms of the location, we've already talked a little bit about that. This actually is part of previously Lot 19 of the East Lake subdivision. And it was also considered by council through a conveyance-only plat, which is a plat exception that the council approved. I would say it was probably about 6 months ago now. The zoning of the property is PD. I'll go into what that means as well here in a little bit. But it is planned development is what that stands for. The existing land uses on the property is primarily used agricultural purposes, but there is some commercial located generally at the intersection of Irma and 120th. The entire site is 63.8 acres, and the Richmond Meritage portion of the site is 32.09 acres, and we'll go into why that's important here this evening as well in that breakout. The site characteristics, the proposed subdivision area does include the entire site, which was a historic dairy farm. There are a number of different structures on the site. Those will all be removed with development of this property. Access to the site is currently from the intersections of 120th and Irma, as well as Race. Those are going to be continued in the future as well, with continuation of Race and Irma to the north. There is of importance an existing pipeline easement that does traverse the property from 120th north and west. The rights to that pipeline company are Magellan Midstream Partners, and the applicant has been working with the pipeline company because there will be relocation of that pipeline. So that has been included as part of the plat as well. And then just for informational purposes, it is adjacent to the decommissioned East Lake Reservoir 1 and Brantner Gulch to the north. In terms of zoning, you can see the entire property is Zone PD. Surrounding properties to the west are in the city of Thornton. North is open space, agricultural land, which is actually designated open space, owned by the city of Thornton, but in Northglenn jurisdictional boundaries. And then there are some apartment complexes directly to the east, existing single family to the south on the other side of 120th. In terms of notice, this is just for informational purposes, but this public hearing was noticed in accordance with code requirements, which does require mailed notice to all property owners within a 300-foot radius, publication And this was actually done for deadline purposes in the Denver Post 15 days prior to the public hearing. And then signs posted. We posted 2 signs, one on 120th and one on Ray Street. In terms of case analysis here for this particular application, I'm going to go ahead and start with some background information because I do think it's important in the decision-making here. In April of 2019, City Council did approve the Carl's Farm preliminary PD plan development. What a preliminary PD does is basically set up the underlying zoning for the particular property. And PD districts do allow a little bit of flexibility that the zoning code might not set up. So there is some flexibility in some of the standards. In general, they did choose to comply with most of the standards in the code. So, but these we reviewed the preliminary PD and the final, or preliminary plat and the final plat for consistency with the preliminary PD that was approved by City Council. And staff has determined that is consistent. I do want to point out here land uses. You can see A and B here. This is where the Richmond and Meritage development is proposed. We'll go into some specifics of that later. There's a multifamily mixed-use element here and some commercial along 120th. So those were the land uses established in the preliminary PD. In terms of the preliminary and final plat, Carl's Farm filing number 1, amendment number 1 subdivision preliminary plat are provided as exhibits to Council Resolution 45. The preliminary plat is required when there's more than 4 lots proposed, as well as if there's dedication of public infrastructure, and in this case there is. The preliminary plat is not a recorded document. Its intent is to demonstrate feasibility of the development in terms of access, utility connections, and some other things. So those are all the things that are looked at in a preliminary plat. The final plat contains all the final lot lines, easements, property measurements, all the informational purposes to establish legal boundaries and legal lots for pieces of property. This document does get recorded with the county and does identify right-of-ways and formal legal lots for conveyance purposes in the future. The final plat includes the entire Carl's Farm property in this case. Because there is access and utilities that are required for the Meritage and Richmond portion, which is the first portion of development that's going to happen. So those utilities necessitated right-of-ways and easement dedications to get those utilities back to those areas of development. So this will just give you an idea of the general plat. The full final plat is actually in your packet, but this gives you kind of a breakdown of the entirety of the parcel. And you can see back here, there's a little more information provided because that's technically what's being formally platted at this time for development purposes. And a site plan has been submitted to the Planning Commission for review. They are the final referral agent or review agent on that and have recommended approval of that, subject to your approval this evening of the final plat. So basically, that's why you're seeing a lot of detailed in here of lots. Those will all be conveyed lots as part of the products being presented by Richmond and Meritage. I will point out here, these lots are legally designated lots. There may be future replatting of those lots as necessary if additional easements are needed or if there's additional lot lines that are required as part of future developments. Commercial property is probably likely where you'll be seeing that if and how they decide to break up those lots. The proposed subdivision does include the entire Carl's Farm property. Just to break down of the blocks and lots for your information, blocks 1 and 7 are associated with the Richmond Meritage development area. That's 282 lots for single-family attached and detached residential. Block 8 contains 2 lots identified in the mixed-use area of the preliminary PD, and blocks 9 and 10 are the commercial area of the preliminary PD. Future subdivision plats, like I said, may be required as necessary. We'll know that at the time we get those entitlement applications in. Because the proposed final plat does include dedication of right-of-way and the installation of public utility lines, the preliminary plat and final plat are required to be reviewed and approved by you this evening, along with a series of development agreements. And I'm only going to go real briefly into these because I think Brooke's going to go into them, but there is a development agreement. This does outline the parameters of improvements of the trunk infrastructure that's required, including main water lines, main sanitary sewer, storm sewer lines, and drainage improvements to the site, all of which are required up front. So that's one of the improvements. The subdivision improvement agreement, that's basically responsibilities of Richmond Meritage, so that's outlined as well, and a shareback agreement for 120th improvements. And because this property is responsible for its portion of the improvements of 120th, that's the reason for that agreement. I'm going to just briefly show you, oh, sure.
I had a question about this one, because I was looking through this over the weekend. No.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can you just, wasn't exactly clear by reading your little key, which one of those, how many of those, what color is single family?
Attached versus detached?
Right.
Okay, so I'll give you a brief understanding here. This is the Meritage portion of the property down here. So this is going to be your 3, 4, and 6 plexes, townhome development. So that'll be this portion down here. Richmond American is doing this portion of the development here, and so they've got a mix of units. You'll see the green units here are the single-family detached product. So there will be separation between each one of these structures. I think it's about 4.5 to 5 feet of separation.
Yeah, it's not very
setbacks
much from what I could tell.
for each property. So
Right.
about 9 to 10 feet between structures, right? And then the blue, the light blue that you see here is their duplex product. So those are an attached product, but strictly a duplex.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. I couldn't tell when I was.
Sure, no, that's great.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions on this slide? Great. So in terms of approval criteria, section 1166 sub B and C of the UDO do outline specific criteria with regards to approval criteria for these applications. Staff has provided a thorough analysis of that in the Planning Commission memo, which has been attached to your memo. Basically, staff finds that the preliminary and final plat do comply with the approval criteria outlined in the UDO, and that the submittal is consistent with the city's administrative manual that's been adopted, as well as the Carl's Farm preliminary PD and the comprehensive plan, which also includes the master plan for Carl's Farm. Planning Commission did review this at their January 21st meeting, and this request was also included in your application as well. It was also accompanied, like I said, by a major site plan that has been recommended for approval by the Planning Commission, but that's tied to whatever happens at this public hearing this evening. But there is no review of the major site plan required by the City Council. Planning Commission also voted to recommend approval of the preliminary plat and final plat to you all this evening. And the Planning Commission has been included as a recommendation, which is attachment number 1 to your staff report. Your options this evening are to approve the request with or without conditions or stipulations, deny the request for reasons stated and by identifying where the request does not meet approval criteria or municipal code requirements, or table the request for further consideration and additional information. Should the City Council approve the proposed preliminary and final plat along with the associated agreements, the applicant does have 30 days with which to submit all those documents fully executed according to the code with all securities, or the agreement is void. So at that point, so just for informational purposes, how this proceeds down the road. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Brooke.
Thank you, Eric. Any questions of council up to this point for Eric or I on the presentation? Great. Thank you. So the other part of this, which is what happens after an approval of a project like this, and we are talking about phase 1 for this project. Now, generally speaking, we have a development agreement which securitizes the public infrastructure costs through a letter of credit or certificate of deposit that the city holds on to while the developer builds the public infrastructure. In this case, we have 2 agreements covering what would otherwise provide the trunk infrastructure to phase 1 development. And I'm gonna work this laser pointer, look at that, I can do it. Okay, this sort of orangey brown is the trunk infrastructure that needs to be built from 120th, which is off to the left here, to bring services to the phase 1 development. The blue area is what is covered under the subdivision improvement agreement, which is the second council resolution that you have on this issue. The brown area represents about $5 million in public infrastructure that they'll be posting security for. The blue area represents around $3 million. Now, in order for us to record the plat, a couple of steps have to happen that are outlined in the staff memo. One is that they have to get 100% civil drawings approved. Right now, where we are at is about 80–90% civil package. That's because that's what we bring forward for entitlements. There's still another I and T to dot and cross before we can actually approve the actual set of plans and all the appropriate permitting. Additionally, they have to post the security that Eric was referring to. All right, those things have to happen before any permits can be issued or the plat can be recorded. So that's going to happen at the time that they basically provide us the security. The third part to this conversation that I want to mention is 120th. So as part of the Carl's Farm entitlement process that we did for the zoning, we identified that there was roadway mitigation, transportation impacts to 120th, which essentially represented intersection improvements at Irma and Race, as well as building a third auxiliary lane on the westbound side of 120th. In conjunction with this, we actually petitioned through the DRCOG TIP process. We were able to secure a federal grant to actually widen 120th from Washington to Claude. So we leveraged their infrastructure cost along with our own local match to be able to do that. And that's what the second 2 agreements are, is that in the third document that you have tonight, which is the cost share reimbursement agreement, is that they have agreed to be a part of, i.e. financially contribute to, while we design and build the whole template of the road from Washington to Claude. I want to also mention that as an aside, and we mentioned this when we did the grant process, but for those new council members, is that we anticipate that this is going to have a huge regional benefit. The current level of service on this corridor during the peak hours is like an E and F, which is bad. A is great. This is actually going to move this corridor pretty much from the highway interchange all the way out toward Colorado Boulevard. It's going to reduce level of service to about a C for the next 20 years. So this is a substantial roadway improvement by doing this one section.
And that is including after people move into.
That's correct. That's correct. The impact that this project was putting on 120th required the third lane on the westbound side and intersection improvements. It didn't require the full build out. So what we were able to do is, in the second 2 agreements, is that reimbursement agreement to us is our way of getting the money from them for their share. The one thing that we did do, and I'd also point out that the subdivision improvement agreement and development agreement also outline, is we don't issue any COs until all the public infrastructure is in place or substantially completed per the requirements of the development agreements. In this case, because we're building it, they don't have control over their own destiny, so we will not be holding up certificates of occupancy for anything on site in case this project isn't completed in time. Right now, we are on track to have this done either on or before the first CO is requested. That's how we are tracking on this right now. So we'll be taking these items up separately after the public hearing, but it's important to understand that these development agreements and the way our agenda process is set up is that they are directly related, and I wanted to be able to explain those mechanics to everybody to understand that they can't just go out and start building tomorrow. There's a couple of other steps involved, and a lot of it involves posting financial securities. So with that, I'll wrap it up and answer any questions you may have on any of that. All right. Also, Eric mentioned to me that the applicant has also prepared a presentation if you'd like. Otherwise, they're also here just to answer questions, so it'd be at your discretion.
Well, I think this is the opportunity for anyone else to speak for or against the subdivision plat, so.
We also typically, we would offer up an applicant presentation if, they have prepared one, but if you'd like, we can defer and just answer questions if you so desire.
I'd like to see it.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Eric and Brooke always do such a great job, thorough presentation. So we know it's a late night and a long agenda. We just figured maybe you would or we would be available to answer any questions. But for the record, Diana Rael from Norris Design, 1101 Bannock Street, Denver, Colorado, 80204. Our entire team is here to answer any questions you might have. I think Eric mentioned early on in his presentation that we were here last April, 2019, for the preliminary development plan. You saw a lot of the kind of high-level detail at that point. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the detail this evening. But as I mentioned, the team is here. I'm representing the Carl's Farm Development Team. Richard Frank is here in the audience. For Richmond American Homes, we have Jason Pock. Meritage Homes is here as well, Glenn Neer. From my firm, I am here, as well as Tom Ellenwood, who did a lot of the planning work on the project. From Traffic, we have Chris Foshing. From Civil at ILC, we have Tess Hogan. And then from our survey group that worked on the preliminary and final plats, we have Sean Lee here this evening. One thing we talked about at the Planning Commission meeting was kind of dialing things back to the master plan. And I call these sort of the 5 things, and it's sort of let's always remember the things that were in the vision guiding document for this property when that was completed by the city. The first was providing housing for a variety stages in life. What you'll see tonight is just a portion of the housing, but there are additional components to this project that will be coming before you, hopefully in the coming months, for various other types of housing, whether it be there's a multifamily component that's coming, as well as a senior housing component potentially, is a use allowed by right. So with any luck, there would be a project like that coming. Second would be connections that propose access to all forms of to nature. We have a variety of amenities that we are proposing for the project, including parks, open spaces, gardens, sidewalks, and trails. The third being open areas for recreation and connection to nature. Talked about that. We have number 4, the development character that reflects a common aesthetic and helps memorialize the heritage of activities that once occurred on the property. So as you might figure, we're retaining the name Carl's Farm. We've actually gone in and started naming some of the streets. Based on the history, we've named and branded the Central Park as Pasture Park, and you'll see a little bit more of that in the video that we have. And lastly, we're going to maximize the development opportunities provided by the area's proximity to the East Lake Station, which is located to the north of us along Claude. And this is, as we mentioned, a transit-adjacent community, so higher densities, smaller lot sizes, more walkable. It's a very gridded format from a planning standpoint. I think Eric did a great job of really locating the project. It is 64 acres in total. The preliminary, final plat that you'll see before you is about half of that. So 32 acres for the final plat. As Eric mentioned, 3 housing types for this. This aerial shows the view of the project looking from the north to the southwest. We wanted to kind of show you what the property looks like in context to the greater Northglenn area. Red Hawk Ranch is off to the right. That's the city of Thornton, Keystone, and the Hayden developments are on the left-hand side, which are in the city of Northglenn. To the north of us is the East Lake Reservoir, which is in the city but owned by the city of Thornton. So the plan for the final plat is, as you might remember from April of 2019, it was sort of, the vision was a very live, work, play community that really brings all of those three aspects of the project together. Because we're on the northern side of the property here, the first half will be really the live and play part of the community. The work and recreate, or the work part of it, the retail, shopping, and entertainment portion would be to the south along 120th. So we're bringing sort of the first two components here before you this evening. As I mentioned, this portion of the property is 32 acres. All of the housing is 100% alley loaded for a total of 282 homes, 3 types. The first type is a single-family detached home. It is on a smaller lot, and I'll go through each housing style in the following slides as well. The second is a duplex, so one shared lot line, and then the third is a 3, 4, and 6-plex townhome type. We have a 1.3 acre centralized park. If I can try to use this. Oh, there we go. It's right here. We also have about a ½ acre open space, which is programmed as a community garden. So in total, 1.8 acres. We have 6 acres of open space throughout the community. That includes gardens, trails, streets that have detached sidewalks with tree lawns, and all of that combines for approximately 10 acres in total for the project. Each of the housing types meets and sort of essentially checks the boxes of the preliminary PD that was approved in April. Some of those things include building height, building setbacks, lot sizes, lot coverages, architecture, parking, and those types of criteria that were set before us in April. The first type of housing, as we mentioned, is the single-family detached. It's about, these are very tall, they're sitting on a smaller lot footprint. They are about 1/3 of the total unit count for the northern part of the community. These are, they appeal to essentially all types of buyers. As far as Richmond's experience in these homes, and they're offering these in various other jurisdictions in the metro area, and they tend to be just a lower maintenance offering alternative for housing. So they're on a smaller footprint, less open space to maintain. It's essentially a lock and leave opportunity for folks that really want to downsize or change the type of housing that they're in today. The second is a duplex. This is a home with a shared wall, so for each building you see 2 homes. They are also concurrent with the preliminary PD and some of the criteria that were set forth in that document, including building height, lot setbacks, lot coverage, architecture. There are 92 of these, and again, about a third of the total housing. And then lastly, we have the townhomes. These are by Meritage. There's 104 of them. They have very similar benefits to the duplexes, whereas they offer an opportunity for attainable housing because they have shared walls. So it lowers the cost of the ultimate homes that people are looking to buy. So it appeals for sort of that downsizing or actually upsizing. So it really fits sort of that middle. It's an opportunity for younger families to purchase a home like this and build wealth and then move up. It's also an opportunity for folks that are in a traditional home to downsize, again, like the lock and leave opportunity as well. And then the amenities that we discussed, starting to see kind of the branding that's evident in the community. As I mentioned, the Central Park is being called the Pasture Park. We've named our streets, the Creamery Street, Farmview Street, Dairy Street. We even have a Zeke and Zelda Lane, Carl Street as well. So we're starting to really pull the history in as we promised we would do in April last year. As I mentioned, the pasture park is 1.3 acres. It's central. It includes a large multi-use field, a playground, a pavilion structure and plaza. We've got benches, bike racks, picnic tables, and those types of amenities. We are also going to have some really fun enhanced crosswalks. So we wanted to make sure that we have some crossings of the trails. We've got 10-foot trails along Irma and Race. Then we have an 8-foot trail that connects both of those along the regional pond, East Lake Reservoir, and then the park here. And so we've designed some enhanced pedestrian crosswalks. It's going to be it's a cow pattern, so should be kind of fun out there. We also have some interpretive signage. We're working with the city right now on the comprehensive signage plan, which has some really fun monumentation design. So you'll start to see all of this start to take fruition, and hopefully start construction as soon as we possibly can. So I think we have a video, many of you have seen it. We've updated it just a bit for the current lotting. If you'd like to see it again, we can play that. Would that be, okay?
I'd like to.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Is there a plan just to kind of, I don't know, keep the city theme for any sort of sculpture or art?
Yes, we have, well, there will be interpretive signage, and we're working on sort of the art plan as well. So we have 2 opportunities for historic art. I don't know if it'll actually show in the video, but one of those opportunities is in the retail area along 120th. So we have a plaza, and then the other opportunity would be in the pasture park. So those things are under development. We don't have the final details of those yet.
Okay,
So.
cool.
I think Eric's trying to we have sound, so.
Seems
There we go. It looks like.
In 1947, Bud and Fern Hinkhouse started a dairy farm on 60 acres of land in Northglenn, Colorado. They had 13 cows, 1 Buick, and a vision. At first, the Carlos Farm Dairy made 1 milk delivery route every other day, but by 1975, the dairy had grown to 400 cows and 18 milk routes. Friends, neighbors, and customers would often visit the creamery, walking into the cooler and helping themselves to the array of dairy products. For generations, the dairy served as a destination for visitors who came for activities like horse-drawn hay rides, pony rides, and dairy tours. Over the years, fall festivals became popular community events. The farm began operating Halloween hay rides, taking excited families across the property under the harvest moon. The farm was also a place for children to see and pet the many animals, from goats to llamas, and even a pair of zebras named Zeke and Zelda. For 65 years, Carl's Farm Dairy was a city landmark and an integral part of Northglenn's community and history. In 2012, the country store closed its doors, but the legacy of the Hinkhouses and their amazing farm and dairy will live on for future generations through stories told, experiences remembered, and a new development that will pay homage to history.
images and video what the goal is here. And I think in conclusion, we believe that we have stayed true to the vision, and we agree with the conditions of approval this evening. So thank you.
In reading through the documents, I saw there had all kinds of analyses and numbers. And I know there was at one point something that suggested that possibly senior housing wasn't going to be that viable, but I would like to put in a plug for that anyway. And I know, this is going to take time, and by the time you get around to looking at that, it just seems like that's the need that's going to increase. So I would strongly encourage senior housing to be a part of this.
And I know that my firm, we do a lot of that type of work, and we've had several clients already inquire about Carl's Farm site and how much, could they possibly get 2 acres. And so I know that there are brokers actively working on, things like that. So we'll keep that. Every time we get a call, we definitely pass it on to the Carl's Farm development team. So
great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, as far as the public hearing part goes, is there anyone who would like to speak for or against the subdivision? No? Hi. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Karen Sways, and current address is 13065 Gun Club Road, Commerce City. I'm one of 4 daughters that own Carl's Farm Dairy, and I just want to say thank you for everybody's cooperation. This has been a long haul here, and I'm amazed at how well everybody works together and appreciate it, and I think it's going to be a great project.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And now we're moving into ordinances on first reading. CB 1942. Joanna, will you read the title?
A bill for an ordinance amending section 2-8-1, parent A of the Northglenn Municipal Code regarding city departments.
Move for approval.
Second.
City Manager Guard, do you have any details?
Thank you, Mayor Lighty. I'm sorry this feels a little disjointed in between the Carl's Farm items, so apologies to our guests in the audience. So we recently had a transition with our former management services director retiring, and so that created an opportunity for me to take a look at our overall structure and how we are operating in the city. And so what I'm bringing forward is a recommendation to create a human resources department. Currently, human resources has resided within the department called management services. So essentially, this proposal is to dissolve management services to create a human resources department, which will include creation of a human resources director position. That's not a new FTE. That'll be a reallocation of an existing FTE at the director level. What I've done is I've moved a couple different pieces that have resided within management services in a couple different places. Community engagement now reports to Diana Wilson, our communications director. We have a custodial staff member who is now reporting and part of Doug Poland's crew over in Public Works and Facilities, which I think is a good fit for that individual. And then our municipal court administrator and her staff, Tammy, now reports to me. So a couple additional pieces of the restructuring, not related but not connectly tied to this ordinance that's proposed for you before you this evening. So happy to answer any questions. This will come before council for second reading and public hearing on, I believe it's March 9th. And so the name of the department would be Human Resources. I do have in parentheticals that it's going to be the Department of People and Culture. And that is really as a result of the overall vision and need that I see within the organization to have greater emphasis on not only retaining our existing talent, but making sure we're doing everything possible to attract new talent when opportunities arise.
Is there any discussion of the item? Yeah.
I actually just have a quick question, Heather. So especially because this is an open opportunity, I guess, for change, how have you been able to get the organization's kind of feedback on what worked well with kind of the human resources department and what areas can be served better for our associates?
Great question. So I have met with each of our existing HR staff members along with meeting with each of our directors through this transition, in addition to really leaning on the employee engagement survey that was done in 2018, and those results were shared with council in 2019. I think the biggest piece that I've been reflecting upon and really think that we have an opportunity to move the needle strategically in is the time allocation and distribution. So previously, I think I included it in the memo, the management services director spent about 70% of her time focused on human resources. I think for an organization of our size and complexity, with the different operating functions we have, in particular with utilities, we really need to have a full-time dedicated human resources director leading and shaping and strategically identifying where do we need to go next. The landscape from an employment law perspective, from an overall benefits recruitment perspective is ever changing. And we, I think, are entering a season where we're seeing more recruitment than historically this organization has seen, not setting aside the police department. We did a lot of recruitment last year, but just in general, because the market's so competitive within the Denver metro area, employees shift. They move when there's new opportunity. So I want to be very intentional, about making sure we're taking advantage of offering training opportunities and those other benefits that we'll have more conversation about come budget season in order to retain and attract employees.
Thank you.
Along those same lines, can you speak to how, because you mentioned 70% was on HR, the other 30% was, I believe, like supporting events and such? Or I guess, how are we going to, who is going to take on the role, who's going to take on the 30%?
Sure. So Diana Wilson, our communications director, so this is an upgraded position from our former communications manager position. Diana and I have talked, and she has the capacity and bandwidth to absorb that additional workload. We will keep a pulse on, need to keep a pulse on whether or not, that impacts too much of her time, what additional resources we might need from just an overall community engagement events perspective. But Diana and I are both comfortable with absorbing that. And then the municipal court piece, that's a piece that I'm absorbing through working with Tammy, our court administrator, directly. I'll have to keep a pulse on that as well. But at this point in time, that'll consist of me meeting with Tammy every other week, monthly, as we move forward. And depending on what level of activity is happening within municipal court, I think that won't be a significant impact on my time. So it is a shift. And I think, going back to what I shared earlier in terms of talking with directors about what they see the needs of the organization looking like, I do have monthly meetings with employees. I call them monthly lunches. And I failed to mention this as one of the other feedback loops in terms of hearing what employees want. We do a lot of great things from an HR perspective. I think we can continue to build on the great work that we're doing.
done discussing. Joanna, will you open the vote, please?
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CB 1942 on first reading passes unanimously.
So moving into resolutions, we'll start with CR 45. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving the Carl's Farm Filing Number 1, Amendment Number 1 subdivision, preliminary and final plat.
Move for approval.
So we've heard a little bit about this. Brooke, do you want to help us know what we're voting on right now?
So this is the actual plat. This is the presentation that Eric provided to you. So either Eric or I are happy to answer any questions.
All right. Joanna, will you open the vote, please?
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CR 45 passes unanimously.
Just stay right there. You can help
Notice
us out.
I didn't move.
We got a bunch. We'll just keep you right there. All right. So next one, CR 46. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving a development agreement between the City of Northglenn, KF Developers Incorporated, and Carl's Farm Metropolitan District Number 2 for Carl's Farm Filing Number 1, Amendment Number 1, Final Plat, Public Infrastructure Improvements.
Move for approval.
Second.
So this is the first of 2 development agreements to cover the trunk infrastructure. I should have noted in my earlier conversation that this is the Metro District that is building this infrastructure, and this is the infrastructure that goes to Phase 1 development, which is the Richmond Meritage project, which is the next agenda item on your docket.
Any questions on this one? Please open the vote.
The vote is open. I will close that vote, and CR 46 passes unanimously.
I think this is the benefit for being so thorough in the public hearing.
We try hard.
Yeah. Excuse me. Next one, CR 47. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving the subdivision improvement agreement for Carl's Farm Filing Number 1.
Move for approval.
Second.
So this is the other leg of the trunk infrastructure, which is to the specific of Phase 1 development in the amount of approximately $3 million.
Vote is open. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 47 passes unanimously.
CR 48. Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of Northglenn and Carl's Farm Metropolitan District Number 2 regarding the design and construction of improvements to 120th Avenue.
Move for approval.
Second.
So this is the last tranche of their public infrastructure. They're required for the impact, to mitigate their impacts on the project. This is also funds that are being leveraged toward our overall project through the TIP grant for 120th.
No discussion? Okay. Please open the vote. It's open. Please vote.
I'll close that vote, and CR 48 passes unanimously.
CR 49. Joanna?
A resolution approving the intergovernmental agreement between the State of Colorado Department of Transportation and the City of Northglenn for the 120th Avenue Operational Improvements Project.
Move for approval.
Second.
So the only 2 things I will add on this, it only took, I believe, 17 weeks for CDOT to get us this draft. So we are very happy that we have it, only because concurrently while we were waiting for them to get this document to us, we put out an RFP for the design services, which we are in the process of finalizing the staff memo, and we'll be bringing that forward to you at the next council meeting. So this is sort of timely in that we will be able to start moving into the first phase of this IGA because of the execution of this agreement, as well as the IGA will help us move forward with that. There is one other small piece to this, which is Thornton has made a financial commitment also to this project, and their comments are due back to us, I believe, tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have that also on the docket at the next council meeting.
Great. Ellen? Please open the vote. It's open. Go ahead and vote. And it's on top of it.
I'll close that vote, and CR 49 passes unanimously.
This is quite the evening for all of the resolutions when you're losing your voice a bit.
Didn't plan very well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brooke. I think we're done.
Thank you, guys.
With you, anyway. CR 54, Joanna, will you read the title? Yes, thank you.
A resolution adopting the City of Northglenn 2020 legislative policy statement.
Move for approval.
Second.
City Manager Guard, do you have a summary of this one?
I don't have a summary, but there is one change that came about from the Legislative Committee this evening. Councilmember Downing pointed out a piece with a bullet under transportation. So we're going to rephrase under therefore the city supports the completion of RTD's fast track end line commuter rail to end of line as originally planned. So that's for council's consideration this evening. Only change that the legislative committee has to this document.
You know, and just a comment, I don't know, but as I was talking to the city manager, she said it's been the way it was for 2 years. I didn't notice it, I don't know, I kept looking at it and I kept missing it, and so I went, oh, this is wrong. For some reason, I noticed it this time and went, we have to change it, so.
Great.
Thank you.
I'm glad you caught it. Joanna, will you open the vote, please?
The vote is open. We'll close that vote, and CR 54 passes unanimously.
CR 56, Joanna, will you read the title?
A resolution pursuant to the requirements of Section 3-1-4, Parent D of the Northglenn Municipal Code, setting a public hearing for Councilman's Bill 1942, Series of 2020.
Move for approval.
Second.
City Manager Guard, do you have a summary?
I think I covered everything in my last comment, so unless council has any additional questions about this item, happy to answer them.
All right, sounds great. Will you open the vote, please?
The vote is open. I'll close that vote, and CR 56 passes unanimously.
Ooh, we were productive tonight. Okay, so discussion items. We have a funding request for executive recruiter services. City Manager Guyer, will you share?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Because I'd like to move forward with a recruitment process for a human resources director, previously what we've done for executive recruitment here at the City of Northglenn at the staff level, not the appointee level, is the Director of Management Services would assist with those recruitments, so there's separation. And so because I don't have that capacity on my current HR staff, I'd like to reallocate dollars, not ask for new funding, but reallocate dollars from the originally planned performance appraisal project update, which we're not going to be able to tackle this year because of the transition with management services. I'd like to reallocate those dollars and have your support to move forward with hiring an executive recruiter. Because I'm projecting the amount to cost within the ballpark of $30,000, I will need to take this out in the form of a request for proposal. So I've built in a general timeline. There are multiple executive recruiters out there within local government, several within the state of Colorado that I know will be interested in this recruitment. And so I hope to act as quickly as possible in terms of selection of a recruiter that really aligns with our overall approach to how we envision this position to function within the organization. And I didn't call out specifically in the prior memo, I did include what will essentially become the job description and information included in a marketing brochure. So I've also in this memo outlined specific steps that I'll be asking executive recruiters to respond to make sure that they're a good fit for us. And one piece that I wanted to draw specific attention to is under number 12, with the communications director position specifically, I added a community meet and greet element that I think has worked really well for our organization and community. So I plan to add in that piece to this recruitment, and I mean, generally speaking, I probably won't have someone on board until late spring, early summer. But the request tonight is that you give me the consensus to go ahead and reallocate the dollars currently budgeted in the amount of $35,000 for the performance appraisal project update. I'll have to shift that to 2021. Having an HR director on board is really critical to move that process forward.
I have a question.
Yes.
In the meantime, how are you feeling about the work getting done, all authority left?
She has. So what I've done on the interim basis is Jason Loveland, our finance director, is serving as the supervisor, interim HR director, if you will. So he's providing day-to-day support to HR staff. And then I talked about the other pieces that we've shifted. So just to share a little bit more, the performance appraisal project will need to go into next year. Rupa is starting on Thursday, so once she gets on board, we'll be able to make some greater headway with the race and equity initiative that's outlined in the strategic plan. But otherwise, the day-to-day operational functions of HR, those are all being met. So nothing additional is being put on hold.
So I thought I remembered, and I think it was when we had an interim city manager. Is Jason being compensated for doing both jobs at the same time?
Yes. Yes. We have a consistent practice on how we treat interim assignments as well as any type of promotional assignments. So that is taken care of.
Just checking. Any other discussions on that one? Okay. I say yes.
Sounds great.
We have
Yeah.
consensus
Thank
on
you.
that? All right.
Mayor.
Yes.
No, he was just giving a thumbs up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he just did.
I was like, I thought he was just voting.
I thought he was just voting.
Yes, I love it. All right, public invited to be heard. You want to chat with us again? Come on up.
So my comments are related to the earlier discussion of the topic of mental health. It reminded me of an email I just got from, being a Rotarian. And there's an event coming up on March 5th in the greater Denver metro area. I believe it's in like the tech center. It'll be in the morning, but it's a symposium and expo all about mental health awareness. So
Wow. Okay.
I know you folks are passionate about it, as I am too. So I can send that email to you guys. I don't know how I'd go about doing that, but if you folks are interested, that section of it is free. It's in the morning, and then there's a luncheon, which is an add-on. But there'll be folks like Mr. Polis and a professor of that study at I believe Columbia University speaking at the luncheon. So. I just want to bring that up. If any of you folks were interested in attending that, I can send you the link. Again, symposium and expo is free. Luncheon is an add-on price. So.
That's fantastic. I would say if you could send it to our city manager, that would be great.
Okay, send it. Okay, very cool. And that was it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for staying.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Okay, there is no further business. We are.
It's just a comment.
You have something?
No,
Oh, yes.
just a fun comment, take 30 seconds.
Yes.
We noticed in the film, the presentation that they did for Carl's Dairy, there was a horse-drawn milk wagon that is sitting over at Stonehopper. I tell you, they donated it. So
That is
thought I'd tell you.
fun. That is a
Yep.
fun fact.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Okay, now we're ready?
We're ready.
All right. Thank you very much.